Chapter 1387. In the depths of the void, there were more than tens of millions of bright god gates that were falling ruthlessly. In addition, Wally was in the silver extreme Tyrannosaurus mode at this moment. His body was already huge, so he suddenly became the best target to attract firepower. Boom boom boom. Wally was not a pushover. He, who had experienced hundreds of battles, also noticed the bright god gates that were falling from the void. He controlled his huge body to avoid the bombardment of the bright god gates. However, the idea was good, but the reality was cruel. Dustless just sneered and made another hand gesture. Wally's body was like a magnetic field. Wherever he flew, the bright god gates would follow. Ka ka ka. Unable to evade, she was finally struck by the bright deity gate. The powerful force forced her to fall to the ground. The gorgeous silver armor on her body was covered in filth, and there were even some parts that were smashed into pieces. These damn things are so powerful. Wally's eyes narrowed. His expression was slightly gloomy as he stared at Dustless. He tried to stand up, but he was shocked to find that the magic power in his body was quickly dissipating. These redwood can absorb my magic power? Finally, Wally could no longer keep calm. His tone was raised by several notches. His body seemed to be full of countless holes. His magic power leaked out crazily, and more than half of it was absorbed in a dozen seconds. What would happen if a few minutes passed? He might even be squeezed into a dried husk. Ayo. Wally resisted with all his strength, and his body exploded with superdimensional power. He came here today to find Dustless to completely end his relationship with him, not to stay here and make a fool of himself. Especially the audience who wanted to see him make a fool of himself was the person Wally hated the most. Dustless. Buzz buzz buzz. Wally's huge body rippled, and the surrounding space was distorted. Everything that came into contact with the ripples on Wally's body shrunk incredibly. White Dragon Emperor's domain. Wally raised his head and roared. The bright god gates that were binding his body also shrunk. The most important thing was that the force that suppressed Wally was getting smaller and smaller. The pressure on Wally was much less. Boom boom boom. The mighty and extraordinary dragon body burst out with unimaginable power. Wally finally tore apart the suppression of the bright god gate and turned into a devastating and dazzling fluorescent light that swept into the sky. There's still some time before the moon falls. I should use this time to destroy the evil Dustless. That way, the meteorite might stop falling, and the world will return to normal. Humph, compared to the Dustless, the horror in Calamity Orb is too kind. White Dragon Emperor Wally said. No matter how crazy the people from the disaster group were, they wouldn't go to the extent of digging their own graves. However, Dustless, who prided himself on being righteous, did just that. Today, I will rid the world of evil and kill you, the most evil person in the world. Entering the silver Tyrannosaurus mode, Wally's limbs were almost identical to a dragon's. He stretched out his sharp claws and shrouded Dustless. White Dragon Emperor's domain. A wave of energy rippled, and the void within Varley's body that had stopped previously began to distort again. This special domain gradually expanded. 1 meter, 10 meters, 100 meters, 1,000 meters. The energy ripples endlessly spread, and Varley wanted to completely distort this dimension. Didn't I just slap his face a few times, trick Black go over, and kill beautiful monkey? That's all. I don't seem to have done anything outrageous. Dustless said helplessly, expressing his innocence. Leave it to me. I'm your bodyguard now. The infinite dragon god Orpheus took a step forward. Her cute little face was filled with calmness. She was directly affected by Wally's White Dragon Emperor's domain, but her body was not affected at all. It was enough to prove the power of the infinite dragon god Orpheus. Even the White Dragon Emperor Arubian in his prime was no match for the infinite dragon god Orpheus. Sorry, I never like to let others deal with my enemies. Let me think about how to deal with him. Dustless's head turned. His left eye was the reincarnation Sharingan, and his right eye was the legendary Tensigan. The two completely different eyes looked particularly evil. After a moment of silence, Dustless snapped his fingers, and the corner of his mouth curled into a wicked smile. What is the most profound state of torturing a person? It's not to kill him directly. That's not interesting at all. The right choice is to make him suffer a fate worse than death. Then first, taking a deep breath, Dustless took out an ordinary-looking sphere from his hand. It didn't look powerful, but it shot out a high-density gravitational force that was enough to destroy the world. Dustless's expression turned cold, and he shouted, "Chibaku Tensei! Ka ka ka!" Just like the prelude to the Sun Destroyer, the moment the words Chibaku Tensei fell, boundless gravitational force shot down from the black sphere, changing the geological plates of the entire world. The earth was torn apart, the mountains were flattened, the sea was collapsing, and the playthings were wailing. It was as if the end of the world had really arrived. The laws of all things were all ineffective at this moment. The huge mountain floated upward, and everything was affected. "What's going on?" Wally exclaimed. His old face finally couldn't maintain his calm and confidence. The moment the gravitational force flashed, his White Dragon Emperor's domain was also affected and was easily torn apart. It was as simple as tearing a piece of paper. Not only that, his huge body also floated upward uncontrollably, and he was about to be sealed by the sphere. Chapter 1388. Gulu Gulu. Staring at the beautiful monkey who was slowly approaching him, Varley's old face changed color. He looked at Dustless with gloomy eyes and growled. "As a powerhouse, you should..." Dustless interrupted Varley and asked with a smile. "Are you talking about the bearing of a powerhouse? How much is that kind of groundless bearing worth?" Boom boom boom. When Varley heard this sentence, his mind immediately became a mess. He felt as if he was struck by lightning. The impact of these words was even more serious than the series of violent beatings just now. Dustless's words implied that he would use all kinds of perverted means to deal with him. "I can dominate everything in this independent space, so let him be eunuch 10,000 times. Beautiful monkey, the glorious task of being castrated by your former subordinate, TSK. That must feel great," Dustless said with a cheeky smile. "You, Poochie." There was a blood stain on the ground. Varley was so angry that he bled. He gritted his teeth and stared at Dustless in shock. He didn't expect this guy to come up with such a shameless idea. What's wrong with being eunuch 10,000 times? Glancing at the big scissors in the beautiful monkey's hand, Varley cursed in his heart. This was 10 times more serious than killing him. "Bastard, kill me if you have the guts." Varley's eyes bulged out as if they were about to pop out. "Oh, so scary. Beautiful monkey, hurry up and do it." Dustless pretended to be afraid, and took a few steps back. He immediately waved his hand, and ordered the beautiful monkey to execute Varley immediately. The beautiful monkey nodded and pounced on Varley with the big scissors. Even if he was eunuch 10,000 times, he could still grow it back after every time. After all, this was Dustless's space. In Tsukuyami's space, the life and death were all under Dustless's control. "Ah, damn monkey, stop it." The miserable scream reached the sky, making people feel cold all over. Varley's miserable scream contained endless pain. That hysterical wail seemed to be regretting living in this world. Dustless had already disappeared from Tsukuyami's space. Ka ka ka. The void outside was filled with wails. The fall of the moon had destroyed everyone's fighting spirit. In front of a planet, what could these small fries do? Whoosh whoosh whoosh. In the distant horizon, several sharp sounds of something breaking through the air could be heard. Looking up, a few weak black spots were rushing over at an incredible speed. Demon King Leviathan Seraphil? That guy seems to be another Demon King. Hearing this, Dustless's observation hockey swept across the world. He was surprised to find that Sazax had disappeared, and he couldn't feel his magic fluctuations. He couldn't have really been killed, right? Recalling Wally's arrogant declaration, Dustless had a bad premonition. There was no doubt about Sazax's strength. He was 10 times stronger than the old Demon King. Dustless really did not believe that he would be killed by the people the old Demon King was filming. But now his magic fluctuations had disappeared. So be it. This kind of thing doesn't matter anyway. Dustless shrugged, revealing a helpless expression. At worst, he could just use Outer Path reincarnation to resurrect. With Dustless's reincarnation Sharingan's pupil power, this wasn't difficult to do. Shoo shoo shoo. At the same time, Demon King Asmodeus and Demon King Leviathan both landed on both sides of Dustless. Their expressions were slightly embarrassed, especially Seraphal's right shirt, which was faintly bursting. You two ran very fast. Are you really the current Demon King? How disappointing. An evil and arrogant voice came. At some point in time, several figures were standing in front of Dustless and the others. You are. His pupil shrank. Dustless was surprised to find that he had some impression of this person. His expression was arrogant, and his eyes were overbearing. People who were swept by him would shrink their necks, as if they would lose their lives in the next second. This guy is a bit similar to Wally, Dustless said in surprise. He estimated that this person was related to Wally Lucifer. His name is Lezawim Levi Lucifer. He is the grandfather of White Dragon Emperor Wally, and also the old enemy of Syzax. Syzax was killed by him just now, Seraphil explained, her beautiful eyes dignified. At the same time, several powerhouses appeared beside Lezawim Levi Lucifer, and the Demon Kings of the old Demon Kings faction were also among them. Ah, is this the general mobilization of the villains? I have already advised Syzax to kill you. But he was moved by compassion. Tskte, if he knew that you are now a traitor, he would not rest in peace. Dustless asked teasingly. The person standing on the left of Lezawim Levi Lucifer was the Demon King Achuka, that he had beaten up a while ago. But then again, are you sure that Syzax was really killed? Dustless asked suspiciously. He felt that it was ridiculous. How could a supreme demon king be killed so easily? I also heard this from Asmodeus. I don't know the specific situation at the time. Seraphil shook her head. Although she had a bad relationship with Dustless, they were already at the end of life and death. Hearing this, Dustless looked at the big guy who had been silent since just now. He felt that there was something wrong with this guy. With Syzax's strength, the probability of him being killed is 0. Even if he was surrounded by several powerhouses of the same level, he should be able to hold on for a while. Could it be? His pupils shrank. Dustless suddenly thought of a terrifying possibility. It was also at this moment that a hole the size of a human head was made in Dustless's abdomen. Chapter 1389. Zenka no Tachi emitted a terrifying energy fluctuation. Any living creature could feel the aura of death. The blood in their body quickly evaporated, as if they would dry up at any time. Everyone, including Lezawim Levi Lucifer, felt uncomfortable. You want to kill my underling? Do you have any respect for me? Lezawim Levi Lucifer sneered and took the initiative to stand up. At the same time, he waved his hand and ordered all his subordinates to retreat. It seemed that he wanted to fight Dustless one-on-one. He had a confident smile on his face. No matter what kind of artifact you are just asking for humiliation in front of me, Lezawim Levi Lucifer said arrogantly. However, Dustless ignored him and kept staring at Asmodeus. Go to hell. His pupils turned. Dustless aimed at the residue at his feet and activated the eye power of Rinnegan. Heavenly hand power. After saying that, Dustless performed a shocking scene in front of everyone. His body quietly left. Even the trajectory of his movement could not be captured. Where is he? Where did he run to? That kid can't be scared, right? Who knows? But even if he ran, it's useless. Soon, we will gradually occupy the main world. That kid is just a stray dog. There is no need to bother with him. Let's discuss how to split the profits after we occupy the world in the future. These people completely ignored Dustless's existence. He was just a small character. If he ran away, then so be it. Damn coward. He didn't really run away, did he? Seeing this, Seraph's expression turned ugly. Although she was a demon king, there were several people on the opposite side who were at the same level as her. If Dustless patted his butt and left, she would only have a dead end. Seraphil expressed that she had not lived long enough and did not want to die. Phew, he finally left. The demon king who held the position of Asmodeus rejoiced. His tense heart also calmed down, expressing that he was under great pressure facing Dustless. However, just as he finished speaking, Dustless appeared and slapped his face. Yo! What are you rejoicing about? A demonic voice suddenly came from behind. Not only Asmodeus sucked in a breath of cold air, everyone else shivered. This guy was as silent as a ghost. Die. With that, Zanka no Tachi slashed at Asmodeus, its sharp edge piercing through his body. Boom boom boom. A violent explosion suddenly occurred between heaven and earth. Zanka no Tachi spewed out a large amount of high-density flames, and Asmodeus disappeared without a trace in a flash. Not even a speck of dust was left behind. It had been directly crushed by the explosive flames of remnant fire Tachi. Everything ended when it was swung. This was the most realistic portrayal of remnant fire Tachi. How is this possible? He instantly killed a Demon King player. Everyone rubbed their eyes, and after confirming that they weren't dizzy from old age, they were petrified. This wasn't the lowest level of trash demon, but a Demon King in name and in reality. Moreover, he belonged to the category of transcendence. The current Demon Kings were all stronger than the previous Demon Kings, but Dustless's simple appearance really refreshed their seriousness. It was as if he was cutting cabbage. Oh no, even if he was cutting cabbage, there would still be movement. At the very least, you could hear the sound of kacha. But when Dustless swung his blade to cut the head of Asmodeus, there wasn't even a sound, directly killing him. Gulp. Everyone retreated one after another, taking the initiative to pull away from Dustless. This guy was really too frightening. His strength was at the limit of being able to shatter mountains with a flick of his finger. A bunch of useless trash. Seeing this, Lesavim Levy and Lucifer's old face twitched. Although he was also shocked by Dustless's means, and was even more afraid of him than Sarzax Jimenez, Lesavim Levy and Lucifer also knew that he couldn't back down. If he, as the leader of the Calamity Squad, was afraid of Dustless, what could he expect from this group of shrimp soldiers and crab generals? Don't be afraid. We have more people. Beat him up like how we killed Sarzax just now. The helpless Lesavim Levy and Lucifer could only boost the morale. His tone was extremely bewitching as he shouted loudly, "Don't forget that we have the absolute advantage." Absolute advantage? Hearing this, Dustless smiled as if he was looking at an idiot. He pointed at White Dragon Emperor Wally, who was rolling on the ground. His whole body was twitching, and his painful expression made it seem as if he was neither alive nor dead. Useless trash, I should have killed you back then. Letting you live now is simply my biggest mistake and failure. Lesavim Levy and Lucifer only felt that his lungs were about to explode from anger. While he was painstakingly trying to fool everyone, his grandson was wailing over there and tearing down his stage. And do you really think that you have the advantage in numbers? Dustless's words attracted everyone's attention. They saw that he was holding Remnant Flame Tachi, which was out of the ordinary. He was not in a hurry to attack, nor was he in a hurry to launch a sneak attack. Instead, he only stabbed Remnant Flame Tachi into the ground. Kacha. Instantly, the ground cracked open easily, and a huge hole appeared. The sharpness that could cut through iron like mud shocked everyone. What is he trying to do? Lesavim Levy and Lucifer's expression was so gloomy that it could drip water. He thought that with Sarzax dead, all the problems would be solved, and the leadership of the demons would be at his fingertips. Even the entire world would be under his control. Who would have thought that after he sent Sarzax away, an even more difficult cold-faced Yama would come and kill one of his generals in the blink of an eye? What an unlucky year. The corner of Lesavim Levy and Lucifer's mouth twitched. Chapter 1390. The group of villains shuddered as they looked at the charred Tachi in Dustless's hand in fear. This weapon was too abnormal. No matter where it hit, as long as it touched it, it would be vaporized. Not even a trace of their existence would be left behind, let alone bones. How did this guy get out of my sealing technique? Demon King Achuka's face darkened. His barrier magic formation was inexplicably torn apart, but none of them saw Dustless make a move. He had only blinked his eyes, and the barrier had shattered. Should we retreat? We're not his match at all. He alone can crush all of us. Chow Chow from the Heroes faction is a good example. We're not as good as him. We'll die if we go up. The team of disasters camp immediately had doubts and discussed with each other. They didn't care about the livid demon king Achuka, or their current boss, Lesawam Levian Lucifer. Which was more important, their lives or their boss? They decisively chose the former. These people were only here to get some benefits. If they could get some benefits, everything would be fine. But if their lives were threatened, especially for a super freak like Dustless, encountering such a strong and boundless enemy, it was better to give up early. One demon king. Who wouldn't be afraid? Sure enough, you didn't let me down. Hearing the cowering team of disasters' underlings, Seraphal's tense nerves finally relaxed. This motley crew was also a force to be reckoned with. But now, their confidence was shattered by Dustless. In fact, it wasn't just the team of disaster that was afraid. Even Seraphal, who was also a demon king, felt a chill in her soul. Dustless's strength was too terrifying. To put it bluntly, killing a demon king was as easy as killing a chicken or a dog. Want to run? Hearing this, Dustless frowned, and a cold look flashed across his face. Being slapped in the face and remaining silent was not his style. Dustless was the true portrayal of Dustless. You're all going to die. Landing on the ground, Dustless was too lazy to talk nonsense. Even if there were tens of thousands of enemies, it was meaningless to him. Anyway, he didn't need to do it himself. Another ability of Zenka no Tachi could deal with it. Are you an idiot? Let them go. We are outnumbered. Seraph trotted over and tugged at the corner of Dustless's clothes, silently cursing him for being an idiot. Dustless didn't seem to understand this sentence. They outnumber us? We have fewer people and less power? That was just now, but it's different now. Wu Chen smiled and patted Seraph's shoulder. The latter's face suddenly blushed like an apple. There were 2 cute crimson balls on her face. She cursed in her heart. This brat still dares to tease me. At the same time, Seraph also widened her eyes and curiously watched Dustless's performance. Crack! Dustless stabbed Zenka no Tachi into the ground, and the ground began to tremble as if it was water. If the number of people can determine victory or defeat, then we will definitely win this time. Dustless smiled with incomparable confidence. Dense ripples appeared on the ground, as if something was about to break out from the ground, causing everyone to feel uneasy. Those who have been killed by me, now wake up. Broken bones emerged from the ground, and Dustless finally shouted, Zenka no Tachi South, fire 10 trillion death burial formation. Oh! The moment his voice fell, the undead army of hundreds of millions of skeletons rose from the ground, and their deafening roars resounded through the sky. They all raised their weapons and charged toward the disaster squad. How is this possible? That guy can control the undead army? And such an exaggerated number. Oh right, I have something to do at home, so I'll leave in advance. My wife is his relative, so I'm retreating too. Damn that guy, is that guy the Grim Reaper? But even Hades doesn't have this ability. Why are you still talking nonsense? Do you want to be beaten to death? Hurry up and run. Hundreds of millions of skeletons chased after the invaders of the disaster squad. There were some super strong undead in the army, such as the captains that were killed in the Grim Reaper world. Aizen, Yawach, Jugram, Ulquiorra, and the captains that were killed by Dustless, including the former Knights of the Astral Cross, all turned into an army of skeletons to chase after the disaster squad. Fortunately, I've killed enough people in the past, Dustless said with a myriad of emotions. Most of the skeletons in the army were strong. You can't be the legendary god of Hades who controls death, right? Seraphal smiled bitterly, suddenly feeling that Dustless was too mysterious. Invincible abilities came one after another, especially with his casual appearance. It was very likely that he did not use his full strength. Grim Reaper? Hearing this, Dustless rolled his eyes. The Hades of this world seemed to be a skeleton. Have you seen a handsome Hades like me? That old guy is just a skeleton. You really can't be praised. Seraphal was speechless. She did not expect Dustless to be so narcissistic. Of course, it was undeniable that Dustless had the capital to be narcissistic. After all, his strength was there for all to see. You two are the last enemies. His line of sight fell on Demon King Achuka and Lesavim Levi Lucifer's head. Almost everyone else had collapsed. Only these two held a deep hatred for Dustless and continued to be in a stalemate. As for White Dragon Emperor Wally, he was already unconscious. He was unicated by his subordinates 10,000 times in the Tsukuyomi world. He was probably traumatized for the rest of his life. Chapter 1391. The Demon King Achuka trembled all over and grimaced in pain. In order to carry out the plan perfectly, he deliberately suppressed his strength last time and lost, causing him to lose face. This time, he unleashed all his strength to turn the tables, but who would have thought that he would be even weaker than before? Achuka said that he couldn't even capture Dustless's movements. When he realized that Dustless had appeared, his heart had been crushed. How can you be so fast? Where did you come from? I've checked your background, and there's no god called Dustless in the Eastern and Western mythological systems. At this point, the Demon King Achuka also recognized the gap between them. It was just his wishful thinking to avenge his humiliation, and it was impossible to realize. I'm just an ordinary mortal. Retracting his arm, Dustless took the initiative to distance himself from the Demon King Achuka. He was also an ordinary human who had reached where he was today. There was no one who could reach the sky in one step and stand at the top of the pyramid looking down on all living things. However, even if I can't kill you, I must leave my mark on your body, the Demon King Achuka said with a determined expression. At least he had to let Dustless know that he had fought with an enemy called Achuka Astaroth and was injured. You have a lot of unrealistic ideas. Wu Chun had a headache. Sometimes it was really difficult to deal with this kind of lunatic who did things without thinking about the consequences. Even if they were forced into a desperate situation on the verge of death, they would still have the idea of perishing together with the enemy in the end. You want to self-destruct? Looking at Achuka calmly, Dustless said softly, you have a lot of magic power in your body gathered in your abdomen. I'm afraid you want to detonate your entire body and drag me down with you. What a crazy man. That's right. Hearing this, the Demon King Achuka admitted. Since he was already close to death, he might as well use the remaining time to create the most dazzling sparks. His body grew bigger and bigger, like a hydrogen balloon gradually occupying the entire sky. Not to mention attacking, he would explode if someone touched him slightly. Unfortunately, there's no chance, Dustless said softly, and at the same time, his eyes began to change. No chance? Get this straight. As long as you touch my body, even if it's just touching me with your hair, there might be an explosion that can destroy the world. Demon King Achuka said proudly. This was also one of his trump cards, a move that would take his enemy down with him. Farewell. Dustless didn't say anything. His eye power increased without limit, tearing apart the space beside Demon King Achuka. Divine might. Could it be that he wants to? Demon King Achuka's pupils constricted as he stared at the space within Shenwei. His entire body glowed. The chances of him taking revenge on Dustless after being thrown into that space were zero. I need to self-destruct as soon as possible. I already said it's too late. The godly might released a distorted gravitational force, and Demon King Achuka was instantly sucked in. It was too late for him to self-destruct, as the wound that was torn by the godly might had already healed. Bastard! In the cold, dark universe, Demon King Achuka screamed at the top of his lungs. He was frantically looking for a way out, but there was nothing he could do. As far as the universe was concerned, there was no way out. The only thing that awaited Demon King Achuka was death. You're the last enemy, right? He turned into a photon and floated to Seraph's side. He saw that Lezawim Levi Lucifer was fighting with Wally. He even chose to forget about Dustless and Seraph. After killing him, I'll have to leave this world. Dustless stretched his body and counted the only gains in this world. It seemed that there was only the Great Red, the psychic beast, and an additional bodyguard, the infinite dragon god, Orpheus. Boom, boom, boom. The two figures clashed fiercely and fought fervently. They had really forgotten about Dustless and Seraph. I say, if the two of you fight like this, I don't know how many days it will take to determine the winner. Instead of wasting time like this, I have a good idea. Lezawim Levi Lucifer and Wally Lucifer both had extraordinary magic power. They could fight for 5 to 6 days without any problem. However, Dustless didn't have that much time to play with them. What idea do you have? Wally and Lesawim Levi Lucifer asked at the same time. It's very simple. Dustless smiled casually. He secretly had a huge energy fluctuation in his body, preparing a powerful move that could kill with one blow. I mean, don't waste your energy. You two should die together. After that, Dustless appeared beside the two of them at lightning speed, and his shining fist slammed into them. Armament hockey hardening. Lesawim Levi Lucifer was a veteran of many battles. Although Dustless was very fast, he didn't grow up without doing anything. Only White Dragon Emperor Wally was sent flying by Dustless. Poochie. The powerful fist was extraordinary. Wally, who was attacked, his chest instantly caved in, and his whole body was almost penetrated. Chapter 1392. Lesawim Levi Lucifer's eyes almost popped out. He stared at Dustless's fist with dread. It was covered with a shiny edge like steel. He secretly pondered. Is this the fist of the giant clan? Go to hell, Wally. A lot of emerald light floated around his body. Dustless said coldly. Tensigan chakra mode. His whole body was suddenly wrapped in emerald mysterious chakra. Dustless's temperament was also different in an instant. His cold and emotionless eyes were like looking at insects. White Dragon Emperor's domain. Wally, who didn't give up, grabbed with his hand. The surrounding void was like the water surface, radiating waves of ripples, and was compressed again. Anyone who touched this power fluctuation was reduced to half of their original size. Even the lifeless stones were no exception. Struggling before death. Can't you just obediently go to heaven? Dustless shook his head gently and glanced at White Dragon Emperor Wally with pity. Then he clasped his hands, and a burst of chakra attack whistled out. Silver Will Reincarnation Explosion. A long tornado swept out, and the ground was easily penetrated. The violent wind speed even affected the change of the airflow. The weather was fine, but it inexplicably rained. Poochie, Poochie, Poochie. The tornado swallowed Wally in the blink of an eye. He found that his armor was as fragile as paper. It would be torn apart when it touched the wind and waves. The heavy armor on his body was eroded in the blink of an eye. Poochie. The armor was all destroyed, and the one who was ravaged was Wally himself. After a while, a lot of blood seeped into the tornado, and Wally had been ravaged until only a white skeleton stained with blood and mincemeat was left. Gulp. Even with Lesawim Levi Lucifer's experience, his eyes flashed with deep fear. This miserable way of dying was too cruel and vicious. Strike first and gain the upper hand. Lesawim Levi Lucifer's magic burst out. In between his movements, the magic light beams all over the sky went forward together with monstrous momentum. Asking for humiliation. Seeing this, Dustless was not afraid at all. He immediately took a more exaggerated move than Lesawim Levi Lucifer. This time, I must beat you until nothing is left, Dustless said coldly. He was already tired of this eyesore, so naturally, he wouldn't show mercy. The majestic natural chakra in his body was released in an instant. Dustless's eyes and eyebrows. A huge outline of a huge outline appeared behind him. Immortal art. Mokutan True Thousand Hands. The giant's arms as arms was the sky. Wu Chun, who was standing on top of his head, dragged the giant Buddha statue forward. Every time he moved, there would be a loud rumbling sound coming from the ground. Gulp. In all fairness, Lesawim Levi was really scared out of his wits by this behemoth. That unparalleled figure made even God He's impression of the Great Red extremely small. Taking a step back, even if the monster had no attack power, and was just an empty shell, it still had an unprecedented attack power. If the Buddha statue fell, it would probably be able to easily destroy a city, not to mention the thousands of fists. How insignificant! Dustless glanced at the incoming light, and did not hide his contempt. He shouted, Buddha transformation on top. Whoosh whoosh whoosh. Hundreds of punches flew out from the Buddha statue behind him. Their power and strength were unparalleled, and they easily dispersed the incoming magic beams. Bang bang bang. The shadow of the fist covered the sky, And wherever it went, magic beams would collapse and end. The void was like fireworks, with sparks flying in all directions. It was extremely beautiful. Let's retreat. Otherwise, I will die too. This guy is too scary. It's doubtful whether the Great Red will be able to take care of him. Lesawim Levi Lucifer said fearfully. It was not that he was afraid of death, but this kind of meaningless death, dying like cannon fodder, was hard for him to accept. Dying was not a problem, but he had to drag the enemy down with him. At least his death would be more valuable. He couldn't be killed by Dustless for no reason like now. That would be too tragic. Chapter 1393. You want to run? Do you think I don't exist? Dustless sneered again and again. He had been observing the changes in Lesawim Levian Lucifer's expression. That expression of fear and wanting to escape, he saw it clearly. Go to hell. Sweeping away the remaining magic light in the sky, the giant Buddha statue turned around and charged towards Lesawim Levi's Lucifer. Kakaka. The ground under his feet shook violently. Lesawim Levi's Lucifer couldn't even stand still. His expression was extremely gloomy. Do you really want to kill me? Lesawim Levi's Lucifer asked in a hoarse voice. His fists were clenched so tight that his veins were popping out. Every strong person had their last trump card, but it could only be used in a desperate situation. Every trump card that was used was one less trump card. That was why most of the strong people didn't want to fight to the death. After all, not everyone was like Dustless, who had all kinds of overpowered abilities and powerful moves. Is there any use in saying this now? A few hundred meters in the sky, Dustless stepped on the Buddha statue. His tone was calm and his eyes were emotionless. Anyone could see the faint murderous intent in his eyes. Damn brat. Hearing Dustless's answer, Lesawim Levi's Lucifer roared. His body turned into a purple light and fled. He knew that resisting Dustless would lead to an early death, but he still wanted to die. That was an idiotic behavior. You still want to run at this point? Dustless shook his head. He was about to leave, so he couldn't let go of this big trouble. Suddenly, a few emerald balls floated behind him. They were similar to the truth-seeking jade. All of them gathered in Dustless's palm. In the end, as if they were melted, they were all compressed into Dustless's right hand. A faint golden light could be seen floating. Idiot, you still want to kill me from so far away. Ha 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 ha, incurable idiot. Lesawim Levi's Lucifer laughed crazily. His words were filled with endless joy. His ability to escape was used to the extreme. Almost in the blink of an eye, he pulled a distance of tens of kilometers away from Dustless. Run as fast as you can. It's a good opportunity to test the effects of this spell on an enemy from such a long distance. Dustless stood still, and the light gathered in his hand was ready to be released. From his calm expression, it was not difficult to see that he was deliberately letting Lesawim Levian Lucifer escape, hoping to use him to experiment on a certain spell. If Lesawim Lucifer knew about this, he would probably vomit blood again. The distance is far enough. It's about time to begin. Dustless raised his hand and stared at Lesawim Levi Lucifer, who was gradually disappearing from his eye sockets. He was determined to attack. Golden Wheel Reincarnation Explosion. The lightsaber extended endlessly. Just like Dustless's chakra, his lightsaber also had no end. Swoosh swoosh swoosh. 1 meter, 100 meters, 1,000 meters, 10,000 meters, 100,000 meters, 1,000,000 meters. The golden lightsaber was invincible. Everything it touched was sharpened by the absolute power. Its momentum was extremely fierce. In the blink of an eye, it was close to Lesawim Levian Lucifer, who was frantically running away. Swoosh swoosh swoosh. The sound of something breaking through the air from behind made Lesawim Levian Lucifer terrified. He subconsciously turned his head, and the incomparably thick golden lightsaber filled his entire pupil. Swoosh swoosh swoosh. The sharp edge seemed to want to cut him in half. How is this possible? What kind of move is this? Does he want to cut the whole world apart? Lesawim Levian Lucifer's face was ugly. He had escaped so far, but who would have thought that Dustless would catch up in the blink of an eye? He was regretting his decision. How was this a battle? It was clearly a crushing of strength. I can't die here. I can still make a comeback. Lezawim Levian Lucifer roared crazily. He gathered high-density magic under his feet and stepped on the void. He covered a distance of more than 1,000 meters. Still want to run? Slightly raising his eyebrows, Dustless scolded him for being ignorant and ridiculous. Chakra rose rapidly like a rocket. In an instant, the golden lightsaber that stretched for millions of meters became faster. In a few breaths, it was already close to Dustless Lezawim Levian Lucifer. Poochie! The golden lightsaber swept across his body. There were obvious traces of blood on his abdomen. It hurts. Lezawim Levian Lucifer gritted his teeth in pain. He subconsciously looked at his body. No, it was not his body anymore. His lower body had been cut off by Dustless. Now only his upper body was left. You can still not die like this. The vitality of a demon is really strong. He was still alive even after being cut in half. Even if it was just for a short while, it was enough to prove how strong and terrifying the vitality of a demon was. The only way to kill him instantly was to cut off his head. It's not that the life of a demon is strong. It's just that my strength is stronger than theirs. If it were other demons, even if they were demon kings, they would have been crushed by you in an instant. Staring at Dustless, who was rushing over in the form of a rainbow, Lezawim Levian Lucifer was calm. Perhaps it was because he was about to die, he was terrifyingly calm. You don't seem to be afraid in the slightest. Your calmness and composure are truly impressive. 7 to 8 meters away from Lezawim Levian Lucifer, photons flashed and instantly compressed into Dustless's body. A pair of bright eyes looked at him and gave him a look of admiration. Of course, because I still have to drag you down with me, so of course I'm very open-minded. Chapter 1394. It was said that Lezawim Levi Lucifer was unrepentant. Even if he was cut in half and only had half of his body left, he was still so arrogant. Especially with his confident tone, he was almost 100% sure that he could kill Dustless. Just based on your current state? Dustless had a headache. He had seen arrogant people before, but he had never seen someone so arrogant. He was already cut in half and only had half of his body left. Even in such a state, he still wanted to drag Dustless down with him. That's right. Staring at Dustless fearlessly, Lezawim Levi Lucifer made the final decision and said with hatred, "If you were willing to let me live, I wouldn't have fought with you. But you actually dared to cut me in half and make me lose face." Lezawim Levi Lucifer's eyes were blood red. Dustless's cruel actions made him lose all his prestige. As the leader of the Calamity Squad, how could he convince the others in the future? Cut you in half. Do you think this is the end? The best part is yet to come. Dustless sneered. He had killed countless people and tried all kinds of killing methods. Today he might as well try them all on Lezawim Levi Lucifer's body. Although he only had half of his body left, Dustless slowly raised his right hand and pointed his thumb at Lezawim Levi Lucifer's right arm. Dense bright light gathered at the tip of his thumb. Laser shot. The straight light shot out and pierced towards Lezawim Levi Lucifer. He actually didn't run. Perhaps he had seen through life and death. Lezawim Levi Lucifer stood still. His body was only faintly emitting a purple light and unbelievably slowly combusted. Poochie. Lezawim Levi Lucifer's face was as pale as snow. Smoke was coming out of his left shoulder. It seemed that it had been pierced through. Through the thumb-sized hole, one could see the sky on the other side. This guy. Dustless frowned tightly. Saying that Lezawim Levi Lucifer had seen through life and death. Dustless would not believe it even if he was beaten to death. How could an ambitious person give up life so easily? Especially Lezawim Levi Lucifer, who was determined to perish together with Dustless. It was impossible for him to die. He seems to be combusting his body. No, he seems to be burning his soul. Dustless stared at Levi Lucifer and felt that something was wrong. Haha. Are you scared? Haha, this is what you get for angering me. Lezawim Levi Lucifer laughed wildly and said, "Originally this was used to deal with the Great Red, but you are at least on the same level as the Great Red. So the main character can only be changed to you. This is a super monster sealed in the Bible, at the cost of my soul." As if he could see the miserable state of Dustless's death, Lezawim Levi Lucifer's face twisted with laughter. Used to deal with the Great Red? Hearing this, Dustless instinctively thought of Samuel the Dragon Devourer, but he shook his head decisively. After all, he wasn't a dragon. Samuel the Dragon Devourer was only effective against the dragon race. He was the natural enemy of dragons, but to suppress Dustless was no different from a fool's dream. Could it be? With a flash of shrewdness in his eyes, Dustless suddenly remembered what Lezawim Levi Lucifer said just now. There was only one monster sealed in the Bible so far, Beast King 666. In the original work, Lezawim Levi Lucifer did use his soul to awaken the Beast King 666, but he was killed by Hyodo Issei in the end. No wonder you are so confident. With such a trump card, you can't be careless at all. Dustless patted his head and showed an expression of fear. But no matter how he tried to hide it, the anticipation that was exposed made Lezawim Levi Lucifer so depressed that he wanted to vomit blood. That was the legendary Beast King 666, not some random person. At least, he should show an expression of fear. What's with this cheeky smile? Not serious at all. Buzz buzz buzz. At the same time, a large-scale magic circle appeared in the void. The range was as large as a few hundred meters. It was the first time Dustless saw such an exaggerated magic circle that covered the sky. Woo woo woo. A deafening roar came from the surface of the magic circle. The majestic roar was awe-inspiring, as if it was the ruler of the sky. Their ears were numb and they felt dizzy. The terrifying aura swept across the world. Anyone who felt the waves could not help but lower their head. They were inexplicably terrified. What the hell is that? Seraphil, who rushed over, was stunned. Her little face was pale, and her body involuntarily hid behind Dustless. Even if the super creature in the magic circle had not appeared yet, Seraphil was sure that this was an enemy beyond her knowledge. It seems to be called Beast King 666. It seems to be on the same level as the Great Red. Dustless lazily hugged his head with both hands and said without changing his expression, Beast King 666? On the same level as the Great Red? Seraphil staggered and almost fell. She looked at Dustless with a conflicted expression. If that was the case, the two of them should run away now and unite with other mythological systems and powerhouses of other forces, instead of looking at Dustless's expectant expression. What are you worried about? My bodyguard is enough to deal with him. Dustless waved his hand and patted Seraphil's shoulder. Bodyguard. Seraphil was stunned when she heard that. She subconsciously looked around. A black shadow just happened to pounce at her. It was so fast that Seraphil only felt a black wind blow past. Chapter 1395. Seraphil was depressed. Since when were there so many unknown powerhouses in the world? Demon King level players seem to have been reduced to street trash. Dustless being a freak was one thing, but she also threw out Lezawim as a freak. Beast King 666 was also speechless. After all, he was on the same level as the Great Red, the real Red Dragon God Emperor, known as DXD. But who was this guy that suddenly appeared? And he was so strong that she couldn't even catch his speed. She's the girl? Seraphil paused and looked at the end of the black wind trail. The girl with black hair dancing in the wind was slim and graceful. Her expression was emotionless, and her clean and white cheeks were like gems. What was most surprising was that the girl was not afraid of Beast King 666's aura. This is the leader of disaster, the infinite dragon god Orpheus? After being stunned for a few seconds, Seraphil revealed the girl's identity, and then asked with a trembling voice, She's your bodyguard? I must have heard wrong. You don't believe me? Dustless curled his lips and said disapprovingly, To be honest, the Great Red, she's also my summoned beast. With a proud expression, Dustless looked at Seraphil in high spirits. His appearance was like a villain, and it gave people the feeling that he deserved a beating. Infinite dragon god Orpheus? Lezawim also exclaimed. His face turned green as he questioned. As the leader of Disaster Orb, how dare you betray us so blatantly? How dare you? Damn bastard, I don't understand. What's so special about this man? Could he be the illegitimate son of the god of creation? Lezivim's face was gloomy as if he had eaten 10 tons of flies. It was as ugly as it could be. It seemed that all the good things in the world happened to Dustless. Damn it! Lezivim roared at the sky, full of desolation. He sacrificed his soul to awaken Beast King 666, and hoped that he could kill Dustless, this annoying cockroach. Infinite dragon god Orpheus' betrayal shattered his hopes. Although Beast Emperor 666 was powerful, it was impossible for him to suppress the infinite dragon god Orpheus. If the two of them were to fight, Beast Emperor 666 would only be on par with Orpheus. Thinking about how he had sacrificed his soul for nothing, Lezivim's face twitched, and he was so depressed that he wanted to vomit blood. Ao. The Beast Emperor 666 completely emerged from the huge magic formation. Its huge body was even taller than the Great Red. It was several hundred meters tall, and it was only a little shorter than Dustless' complete body Sisanu. An ugly monster with several heads was instantly exposed. Its invincible aura swept across the entire underworld. Woo. Beast Emperor 666 roared once again. Although he didn't intentionally target anyone, the shockwaves from his roar still turned into a world-destroying shockwave that spread in all directions. Even if the moon hasn't fallen, the underworld is probably done for after this battle. Seraphil could not help but smile bitterly and lower her head in silence. In front of this group of people, her status as the Demon King had plummeted, and she had no right to speak. Other than Lezivim, who was about to die from self-immolation, everyone else was stronger than her. This guy, Dustless carefully stared at Beast Emperor 666. After a while, he waved his hand and said with a face full of disgust, "This ugly guy is Beast Emperor 666? What a bummer. One look and I can tell that he's a big idiot. He doesn't deserve to be my summoned beast. Orpheus, hurry up and kill him. If I summon him out to fight, I will definitely be isolated and treated as an alien." Orpheus, who was naturally adorable, twitched her mouth. Her expressionless face had a touch of helplessness. She was also deeply troubled by Dustless's Chinibu personality. Ao. Somehow, Beast Emperor 666 seemed to understand Dustless's mockery. One of his heads roared a few times. Then he bared his teeth at Dustless. Then he opened his mouth and a huge flame fell down. "Idiot, taking the initiative to provoke me, you will only die faster." Giving a hopeless look, Dustless also launched an incomparably powerful attack to give a biting cold counterattack. "You just came out, and you don't even have time to take a few breaths before you die. It's really hard for you. Even a cold person like me can't help but sympathize with you." The Rinnegan Sharingan was exposed in the air, staring at the falling fireball. Wu-Chen responded softly. "Tomb of Samsara, border prison." The sky was quiet, but the falling fireball instantly exploded without any warning. Everyone was dumbfounded, including the heads of Beast Emperor 660 SAX's main body. They were all dumbfounded. Others didn't understand what happened, but Dustless, who saw through Rinnegan Sharingan, witnessed everything with his own eyes. The flame attack was scattered and destroyed by his shadow. In the invisible world, Dustless's shadow used complete Kinsusinu to confront Beast Emperor 666. He had an ignorant expression on his face, and he didn't know who did it. Full of flaws, a good opportunity. Orpheus's cute little face caught Beast Emperor 660 SX's flaw. She raised her harmless fist and punched at Beast Emperor 660 SX's many heads. Boom boom boom. A large ripple appeared in the void, and it spread at a speed beyond the naked eye. It gave the feeling that the sky of the whole world was trembling, because of Orpheus's punch. At the same time, Dustless increased the output of his eye power. His shadow controlled complete Kinsusinu, and under the double attack, Beast Emperor 666 was instantly unlucky. Especially Dustless's shadow, he couldn't deal with it at all. Chapter 1396. If he could see or feel the attack, he could still barely defend and counterattack. However, if he couldn't see or feel the attack, he definitely couldn't counterattack. Facing the shadow of Tomb of Reincarnation, Beast Emperor 666 was instantly doomed. Pfft. Dustless's shadow controlled the complete body Kinsusinu and raised his sword. He channeled his strength to the maximum and slashed at Beast Emperor 660's body. Beast Emperor 666 was instantly split into two. Bang bang bang. The body that was a few hundred meters tall was mercilessly cut in half. The body that was as big as a mountain fell to the ground. The earth shook and the mountains shook. It was chaos. Bang bang bang. Ka ka ka. At the same time, the attack of the infinite dragon god Orpheus suddenly arrived. This Lolita dragon looked harmless and was often good at acting cute. However, when she attacked, there was no hesitation at all. Beast Emperor 660's lower body that was cut in half was smashed into pieces by her. Gulp. Witnessing this scene, Lezavim's throat suddenly choked. Looking at the miserable Beast Emperor 666, his own soul had been burned to nothing. He suddenly realized that he had suffered a loss. Is this really Beast Emperor 666 that's comparable to the Great Red? Lezavim's eyes were filled with doubt. If it was Beast Emperor 666, it was too weak to be beaten up by Dustless and Orpheus. He didn't even know who the enemy was before his body was inexplicably cut in half. Still not dead. Sensing that Lezavim's soul was not completely burned, Dustless wanted to help him. He waved his hand and a pink light flew out. Pathbreaker 54 Waste Flame. At this moment, Lezavim was like a fish on a chopping board. He could only watch the incoming attack. He couldn't even free his hands to counterattack. His expression was very weak and weak. Boom boom boom. The burning Lezavim exploded and was completely engulfed in the flames. Roar roar roar. The crippled Beast Emperor 666 roared to the sky. His collapsed wounds miraculously healed. He winked proudly and arrogantly. His nondescript had also recovered to its original state. This guy, his ability is somewhat similar to my super regeneration. Dustless frowned. Perhaps Beast Emperor 660's strongest point wasn't his attack power, but his instant recovery ability. Everyone would die from exhaustion. No wonder it can only be sealed. This kind of ability is a headache for the native gods of this world. Dustless had some understanding of the gods of this world. His attacks were rather monotonous, and he used the same few moves over and over again. It's a little tricky. Orpheus moved to Dustless's side. It would be difficult for him to destroy Beast Emperor 666. Its recovery ability was too overpowered. It could instantly restore itself to its original state. Troublesome. Dustless sneered and said sarcastically, "If that's all he has, I can tell you clearly that this ugly emperor is going to die today." As an invader from another dimension, Dustless had trampled on 3 worlds in a row. What kind of strange abilities had he not seen before? An unlimited recovery ability was nothing. At least Dustless would have no problem dealing with him. Listen up. Whether it's sealing you or killing you, I have 100 ways to make you wish you were dead. With both hands, Dustless was even more ruthless this time. In the world of the Tomb of Reincarnation, there were suddenly a few more shadows. There were a total of 12 shadows. And they were using the exact same move at the same time. Would release. Immortal Art. True Thousand Hands. Beast Emperor 660's body was very big, but there was a gap between him and Senju Hashirama's strongest technique, True Thousand Hands. He was half a head shorter. Especially when he was surrounded by 12 True Thousand Hands. He looked even more small and fragile. He could be annihilated under countless fists at any time. Of course Orpheus, who didn't have Rinnegan or Rikudo Senjutsu, couldn't see this scene. Turn into foam for me, damn beast that doesn't look like a human or a ghost. As Dustless's voice fell, all his shadows began to form hand seals, responding to Dustless's call, and giant fists all flew out. Buddha on top. Whoosh. The invisible world of Tomb of Reincarnation was filled with this kind of dense air-piercing sound. Looking up, row after row of huge fists were flying towards Beast Emperor 666. 12 True Thousand Hands were attacking at the same time. This scene had never happened before. However, such a shocking scene was only seen by Dustless. After all, he was the only one in the world who had Rinnegan and Rikudo Senjutsu. Bang, bang, bang. Even so, the scene that appeared in the eyes of Orpheus and Seraph was extremely exaggerated. Ka ka ka. The Beast Emperor's body, which was hundreds of meters tall, collapsed inexplicably. He was beaten to a bloody pulp. Pieces of flesh and bones flew everywhere, but Orpheus and Seraph couldn't see who had attacked him. The only thing left in the world was Beast Emperor 660's painful howl. Just a reckless beast. I give you a little sunshine and you're brilliant. Do you really think you're invincible? Ridiculous. Pursing his lips, Wuchen did not hide the sneer on his face. Boom boom boom. The ruthless destructive blows continued. The 12 shadows launched true thousand hands at the same time to deal a fatal blow to Beast Emperor 666. Ow ow ow. The Beast Emperor howled in agony. His bones and flesh had been smashed into fist-sized pieces. He was in a state worse than death. His hysterical howls of agony resounded through the sky. Even Orpheus, who was simple and ignorant of the world, frowned slightly. She and Seraph looked at Dustless at the same time. Both of them felt that the man in front of them was too terrible. His strength was unfathomable. Offending him was tantamount to putting an end to this world. Just like the scene in front of them, they were beaten black and blue, but they didn't even know how to do it. Chapter 1397. Beast Emperor 666 was the only one who received such treatment after being attacked by 12 shadows consecutively. He was so happy that he didn't want it anymore. That horrifying scream made one's scalp numb and filled with despair. Ow ow ow. Woo woo woo. Although Beast Emperor 666 was beaten to a pulp, his body could still be repaired. However, he was still unavoidably beaten up. This cycle repeated over and over again. Beast Emperor 666 was extremely miserable. Blood flowed like a river on the ground. His identity was also changed. He became the arrogant one and became the bullied one. Boom boom boom. The 12 shadows' thousand hands was also used up. Only then did the invincible attack stop. Beast Emperor 666 was panting heavily. In the past few minutes, he was almost beaten up dozens of times. Although he could revive each time, the physical damage caused by the physical attacks was real and couldn't be removed. Ow ow ow. Woo woo woo. Several heads stared at Dustless. Their huge eyes were cold. If looks could kill, perhaps Dustless would have been cut into pieces by Beast Emperor 666. Ow 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 ow. Beast Emperor 666 opened his mouth and wanted to take revenge on Dustless. Infinite Dragon God Orpheus, the loyal bodyguard, immediately retaliated. It was one of the strongest moves. Boom boom boom. Rolling golden flames were spat out from Orpheus' mouth. It was just a small ball of fire, but the waves it emitted affected the entire world. Although it wasn't as scary as Zenka no Tachi, the water around it was evaporated. Boom boom boom. The flames hit Beast Emperor 666 head-on. His mighty body was black as if he had just climbed out of the mud. There was a burnt smell all over his body. Don't ignore my existence. Orpheus raised his fist and waved it. He was obviously saying that if you ignore my existence, I will beat you to death. It still doesn't work. Dustless frowned. Beast Emperor 660's burnt wounds healed in the blink of an eye. However, the pain of being beaten up by Orpheus was real. Woo woo woo. Beast Emperor 666 stretched out his head and shouted. It seemed to be saying that none of their moves were effective. There's no limit to his arrogance. Dustless's lips curled up slightly. He ignored the Beast Emperor's furious roar. This guy could only take advantage of him verbally. From the moment he came out until now, he had been the one getting beaten up. Swish. Swish. Enraged, the Beast Emperor lowered its body and opened its mouth to bite Dustless and the others. Its mouth was several meters long. It seemed like he wanted to kill Dustless and Orpheus in one go. Super Shinra Tensei. The 9 Tomo reincarnation I emitted a dangerous fluctuation, an earth-shattering repulsive force erupting. Boom boom boom. A huge crater several dozen kilometers wide appeared on the ground, as if it had been struck by an extraterrestrial meteor. It covered the entire territory of the Gimli family. Even the infinite dragon god Orpheus' cute little face changed slightly, and it could not help but shiver. It could not help but imagine what would happen if it was attacked head-on. Bang bang bang. The Beast Emperor exploded into a bloody mist again, but only a few seconds later, he appeared in front of Dustless again. This guy is indeed a little difficult to deal with. At this point, Dustless had no choice but to admit defeat. This guy was like his 10-tailed body. Even if he was cut into pieces and beaten until only his cells were left, he could still break out of his cocoon and be reborn. This is the fundamental reason why I can only seal him. Orpheus' face always maintained a calm expression. If that's the case, then seal him. Banish him to the universe and let him live a life worse than death. After all, he had already beaten this guy dozens of times, and Dustless' anger had subsided. He could just continue to seal him. Out of sight, out of mind. It's easier said than done. Orpheus raised her voice and was speechless. This was the Beast Emperor 666, an existence that was almost at the same level as her. Sealing him was as difficult as ascending to the heavens. Don't worry, I'm very good at sealing. Dustless smiled calmly, and then threw a black body into the void. The ground suddenly trembled, and a majestic gravitational force shot down from above. Chibaku Tensei. He used all his strength to cast the Chibaku Tensei, and there was a qualitative change. A large piece of the ground was torn apart, including the Beast Emperor 666, who was a few hundred meters tall. His huge body ignored the existence of gravity and unbelievably floated up. The moment the gravitational sphere appeared, the whole world began to slowly float up. What kind of move is this? Orpheus could no longer maintain her calm expression. For the first time in her life, she was stunned. Not to mention the Beast Emperor 666. Even she felt that she was about to be torn apart. The high-density gravitational force enveloped her, and she lost control of her body. This was the situation where Dustless did not deliberately target Orpheus. Otherwise, she might be like the Beast Emperor 666. Ow ow ow. Woo woo woo. The Beast Emperor 666 screamed in panic. He shook and struggled with his huge body, but in the end it was useless. His body that was a few hundred meters tall gradually merged into the Chibaku Tensei. Seeing that he was about to be sealed, the Beast Emperor 666 had no strength to fight back. Under this destructive gravitational force, it was thousands of times more difficult for him to move his arms and legs. It was even difficult for him to open his mouth to speak, let alone fight back against Dustless. He could only look at the large-scale meteorite that was getting closer and closer in despair. It's over. Dustless's gaze froze slightly. The Beast Emperor 660 SIX's body completely disappeared, and was sealed inside the Chibaku Tensei. Chapter 1398. The entire world was silent as everyone stared blankly at the meteorite that was expanding in the void. The moon was falling slowly, and Dustless created an even more exaggerated planet, with his own strength. This heaven-defying method stunned everyone. Even the infinite dragon god Orpheus had his mouth wide open, and his eyes were filled with shock. This was equivalent to indirectly creating a world. It's over then, there's no need for you to fall. Glancing at the meteorite and the Chibaku Tensei that sealed the Beast King 666, he activated his Tensigen again, and the moon returned to its original orbit. And the poor Beast King 666 was directly exiled into space by Dustless. Time flew, and half a month passed in the blink of an eye. The underworld that had been scorched by the last war had begun to be rebuilt, and many areas had been restored to their original appearance. But the painful lessons left behind by the war could not be forgotten. For example, the unexpected death of Sazax. Eulifia, Riaz, and the others, including his mother, were extremely sad. When they found Sazax's body, he was devastated beyond recognition. Inside the luxurious villa of the Gimli family, can such an unbelievable thing really be done? Riaz's tone was tearful and a little touched, thinking that Dustless was comforting her. Bringing someone back from the dead was too unreal for Tai. Of course I can use my outer path, reincarnation of heaven, to bring Sazax back to life. Dustless nodded affirmatively. Reviving someone was a piece of cake for him. Watch carefully. With everyone's anticipation, Dustless walked to Sazak's charred body and shouted, "Outer path, reincarnation of heaven." Sazak's body was covered in an emerald light that contained a vast amount of vitality, and his shattered and charred body began to recover. His charred skin also began to heal. "Can it really be done?" the girls exclaimed, and Riaz were the most excited. Where is this?" After a while, Sazak's eyebrows twitched slightly, and then he opened his eyes and looked at the world in front of him in confusion. "Am I not dead? And who are you?" His words caused Gulifia and Riaz, who were crying tears of joy, to freeze. "Is there something wrong with my memory? This has never happened before," Dustless said with a frown. Then he guessed. Maybe there's something wrong with his soul. Lezavim and the others were ruthless enough. Just in case, they probably even did something to Sazak's soul. That's enough. Despite her disappointment, Gulifia still walked up to Dustless and thanked him sincerely. "Don't worry about it." Dustless smiled. It was just reviving a person. With his eye power, it was a simple and easy task. "It's time to take them away." Dustless glanced at the girls and knew that their trip to this world was over. He was about to bring them back to the system and invade the next world. "We." Demon King Seraphil raised her eyebrows and said unhappily, "It's you, not us. Pay attention to the way you speak. If you don't handle it well, others might misunderstand. It's your own business if you refuse." Dustless glanced at Seraphil and said playfully, "But I'll still kidnap you by force." "You. Shameless." Seraphil stomped her feet in frustration. The girls couldn't help but laugh. Seraphil was quite the tragedy. As a demon king, she had no choice but to admit defeat when faced with the unreasonable Dustless, who told him to have the biggest fist. Sazak's. Gulifia had a complicated expression. She didn't expect this to happen. She felt a stabbing pain in her heart when Sazak's looked at her with those strange eyes. "Seraphil and I will both leave. After that, the Demon King will be alone. Why don't we promote him and let him be a carefree demon god?" Dustless suggested. "And me." Gulifia had yet to finish talking when she was glared at by Dustless. Now that Gulifia was also Dustless's reverse scale, how could he let Gulifia continue to stay in the demon realm? There was no way she could stay. As for Sazak's, Dustless didn't feel that he had done anything wrong by reviving him and giving him a unique position as a demon god, including Seraph's younger sister, Songna Sytry, as well as her large group of dependents. Dustless took them all away. Although he was ready to leave, Dustless wasn't in a hurry. Instead, he went to various mythological systems and wiped out all the messy ones. Dustless didn't even do anything. The infinite dragon god Orpheus and the Great Red were a super combination. Did Dustless need to do anything himself? Obviously, there was no need for that. For example, Hades of the underworld and the Indian mythological systems were even more important targets. In the end, they were all destroyed by Dustless. When it was time to leave, Dustless held a big wedding. After dealing with all the trivial matters, Dustless planned to leave this world with the girls. Almost all the mythological systems had been wiped out. They had all been cruelly killed. Dustless had mercilessly annihilated them all. There was no one who could threaten Sazak's at all. Therefore, his position as the demon god could be held comfortably. Chapter 1399. The sun shone brightly in the system world. The sky was cloudless for thousands of miles, and the breeze from afar was unusually refreshing. With a slight sniff, one could not help but indulge in it. Dustless leaned against a tree with a blade of grass in his mouth. "Today the people are so happy." Humming a tune out of tune, Dustless's face was full of smiles. Following his line of sight, in the clear pond in front of him, countless beautiful figures rolled together and laughed. Mei Terumi, Hinata Hyuga, Boa Hancock, Robin, Ranjika Matsumoto, and Riaz and the others who had just joined. Countless beautiful women with hot bodies were laughing and playing around. Really, when I look back, things are still the same, but people have changed. When did my wives become so many? Dustless sighed and suddenly felt that time had passed so quickly. There are indeed a lot. The system consciousness Ling appeared in front of Dustless and nodded. Her phoenix eyes were filled with helplessness. She even suspected that her system world would explode because of Dustless's women if this continued. I've rested enough for a while, let's change to the next world. Although the corrupt life of drunken stupor was better than living immortals, after a long time, the warlike Dustless was tired and even a little annoyed. It's all ready. Ling gently waved her hand, and a dark space tunnel appeared next to her, twisting time and space as if the other side was another universe. And there was a strange atmosphere. I'm really looking forward to it. Standing up and moving around, Dustless strolled to the front of the space tunnel, threw away the blade of grass in his mouth, stared deeply at the women playing in the pond, and jumped in decisively. They got along very well, and there should be no possibility of a harem fire. What kind of world is that? Dustless glanced at Ling with interest and asked expectantly. It's somewhat similar to the world we're in now. Linger explained simply. Hearing this, Dustless frowned and fell silent. It seems that it's also a place where all kinds of gods walk around. After saying that, Dustless chatted with System Ling for a while, and after casually asking around, he jumped into the dark space tunnel. At the same time, in another world, dense forests covered the mountains and fields. As far as the eye could see, the entire world was made up of magnificent mountains and rivers. Immortal mist was faintly discernible, and the towering peaks were faintly discernible. The scenery was too beautiful to behold. Boom! An inexplicable loud noise came from the sky, and all the birds and beasts in the forest fled at the sound of the noise. The huge tremor tore apart the clouds and mist in the sky. In an instant, the sky was clear for thousands of miles. Ripples appeared in the void without any warning. The ripples expanded rapidly, and in the blink of an eye, they occupied a large part of the world. This kind of supernatural imagination is obviously not man-made. In other words, is this the god of disobedience? Suddenly, a gust of wind blew across the vast sky. Due to the speed of the wind, it was impossible to tell who the black shadow that was riding the wind was. Can you tear space apart? Who exactly was he? Which mythological system are you from? Don't disappoint me. The breeze stopped moving, and the vague voice became much clearer. It was pleasant to the ears, and it was most likely a young girl. Gotcha. A black hole was torn out of the void, and an afterimage fell out of it. You came out? It seems to be a god that I have never seen before. Humph. No matter which god you are, you dared to invade my territory. If I don't teach you a lesson, how can I establish myself in this world in the future? The pleasant voice sounded again. The goddess was slim and elegant, and her expression was indifferent as she stood in the void. Her beautiful eyes swept across the sky, and her dark eyes were majestic. Her whole body was shrouded in a sharp aura. Taking a closer look, the young girl was wearing a white traditional Chinese dress. Her delicate face was as delicate as a jade carving, flawless. Her tall nose was just right, and her delicate thin lips were like a blooming flower. Her silky black hair was braided into 3 braids and stood up. The girl was Luo Hao, who was at the top of the Junlin martial arts. At the same time, she was also the leader of the Saint sect. Just when she was sleeping comfortably, a loud bang came from the sky. The void was violently torn apart, and high-density energy swept across the sky. It was difficult for Luo Hao to sleep peacefully. This was the most blatant provocation. How could she turn a blind eye to it? Plop! The black shadow that fell out of the spatial tunnel just happened to fall into the pool. His body was dirty, as if he had been struck by lightning. His hair was messy like a chicken's nest, and his fair cheeks were also dark and swarthy. Damn! Why am I so unlucky every time I transmigrate? If I don't encounter a spatial storm, I will be affected by all sorts of apocalyptic disasters in the universe. This is an unlucky year. The figure that fell out of the spatial tunnel was Dustless. Even though he knew that he would encounter all sorts of disasters when transmigrating, and he was fully prepared, he still ended up in such a sorry state. Yo, you are that beggar who doesn't follow. Where did you come from? An afterimage flashed across the sky, and Luo Hao's figure appeared above Dustless's head. Her stern eyes looked at Dustless, and her delicate face was replaced with a strange expression. Beggar. With his old face twitching, Dustless stared at the floating girl with a gloomy expression. After staring at her for a while, he suddenly felt that she looked familiar. He thought of an extremely narcissistic girl and asked tentatively, "Luo, how great sect master Luo?" Hearing this, Luo Hao's fair face flashed with astonishment and surprise. There were only a few people who could recognize her. "You know this sect master? Could it be that you are my loyal fan?" Chapter 1400. Dustless was speechless. Even though he knew that sect leader Luo was a little narcissistic, he did not expect it to be this exaggerated. How could a young lady like you, who was ignorant of worldly affairs and lived in the mountains all year round, have any fans? Give me a reasonable explanation or else. Luo Hao aimed at a towering mountain in the distance and slapped it without hesitation. Boom, boom, boom. A huge explosion resounded through the clouds. The majestic mountain instantly disintegrated, turning into thousands of particles that scattered in all directions. This was not a 100-meter-tall mountain, but a piece of soft tofu. Amazing! Dustless nodded secretly and could not help but give a thumbs up. He had a vague understanding of Luo Hao's strength. As one of the god slayers, she was not to be underestimated. Of course. Don't you know who I am? Hearing this, Luo Hao's eyes flashed with a smug look. Then she remembered her business and said in an unfriendly tone, "However, you have not answered my question. I will give you 3 seconds. If you don't give me an explanation, I guarantee that you will suffer a fate worse than death." 3, 2, 1. She gathered a powerful force in her palm and was about to slap Dustless to death when an indignant voice suddenly sounded. "To tell you the truth, I am here to become your disciple because of your reputation." Dustless randomly found a lame excuse and put on a look of deep hatred. With a twisted face, he said hatefully, "My name is Dustless, and my mother was a witch. However, 4 years ago, she was unfortunately captured by the god-slayer of Eastern Europe, Marquis Oban. He forced my mother and other witches to hold a ritual to summon the god of disobedience. After the ritual was successful, my mother was buried with him. Even though I hate him to death, I am powerless to take revenge. After all, he is a legendary god-slayer, and I am just a mortal. I heard that Marquis Oban and sect leader Luo Hao are old enemies, so I came all the way here to become your disciple." "I see. You want to use me as a tool to deal with that guy?" Luo Hao glared and asked in an unfriendly tone. She reluctantly accepted Dustless's explanation. Marquis Oban did hold a ritual to summon the god of disobedience 4 years ago, and indirectly caused the deaths of many witches. Dustless's mother might be one of them. "You should at least wait for me to finish." Dustless complained gloomily in his heart, but on the surface, his face was full of hatred. He said, "Cult Master Luo, you misunderstood me. I'm here to take you as my master. I only hope to learn a trade and take revenge in the future." Dustless was actually quite tempted by the godslayer profession. Who wouldn't be tempted to kill a god and obtain their exclusive authority? Dustless had killed countless gods, but not a single one of them had obtained any authority. This world isn't bad. Who knows, I might be able to increase my strength. Dustless's eyes gleamed as he shamelessly acknowledged Luo Hao as his master. After all, Luo Hao had been a godslayer for more than 200 years. Her knowledge in this area far exceeded that of a rookie like him. "You want to be my disciple?" Luo Hao suddenly understood. She held her ancient fan and lowered her white chin. She tilted her head and said, "This cult master is awe-inspiring. It's normal for you to recognize my strength. It's reasonable for you to take me as your master." Pooh! Dustless couldn't help but spit out a mouthful of water. The corner of his eyes twitched. "Could you not be so narcissistic? You think I'm wrong?" Luo Hao's face darkened. She changed her attitude faster than flipping a book. Dustless instantly felt an invincible aura of Mount Tai pressing down on him. Although he wasn't afraid of Luo Hao at all, he still pretended to be fearful on the surface. "Sect leader Luo is right. You're absolutely right." With that, the girl's expression eased a little. "It's not a bad idea to take you as my disciple. Besides, I don't like that guy Warban. It's not a bad idea to find a disciple to beat him up. Anyway, I've been very bored recently and have a lot of time. It was obvious that Luo Hao and Warban were not on good terms, and their relationship was very bad. A gloating smile appeared on her beautiful face, as if she could already see Marquis Warban's future misfortune. She could not stop smiling. In the end, you're just an innocent girl who doesn't understand the world. Quietly staring at Luo Hao's smile, Dustless couldn't help but shake his head. Just as he was about to ask some questions about the Godslayer, Luo Hao spoke first. She said with a look of disdain, "Let's go back to my place first. I can slowly teach you the techniques of battle. Also take a good bath, or you'll stink my place." Dustless's entire body was black, and it even had a burnt stench. "That's true." Hearing this, Dustless nodded in agreement and dove into the water. The water rolled over his body, and in a short while, his black body recovered. This guy. Even though Dustless was underwater, Luo Hao's clear eyes could easily see through the water. Dustless's appearance was clearly reflected in her eyes. The young man's face was like a crown jade, with clear edges and corners. His deep and bright eyes were like the stars shining brightly. The well-proportioned muscles on his chest were evenly distributed. The Dustless underwater contained explosive power, completely ignoring the existence of resistance, just like a fish. Not bad, he's a promising talent. Luo Hao's eyes lit up, and she gave a rare look of praise. This disciple of hers seemed to have a much better future than Lu Yinghua. He exuded an indescribable free and confident temperament. Splash! Dustless jumped out of the water like a carp. He wiped the water off his face and stared at Luo Hao's slightly dazed face. He couldn't help but laugh inwardly. As expected, ugly faces have no rights. Handsome faces have a bright future. Could it be that my eyes were playing tricks on me? Luo Hao wiped the corner of his eyes and said in confusion. Just now, Wu Chen was still a mess. His face was black and his hair was messy. Now, after washing in the water, he looked brand new. He looked like two different people. Chapter 1401. Time flew by, and a day had passed in the blink of an eye. In Luo Hao's small nunnery, there were no luxurious furnishings that belonged to the modern world. Instead, they were all retro decorations. This can barely be considered her boudoir. Dustless smiled faintly. His eyes focused on Luo Hao, who was sitting in front of him. He asked the most important question. "Do I have a chance to become a Godslayer?" Everything else was trivial. This question was the most important. It did not mean that you could become a Godslayer just by killing a god. That would at most be considered as having the title of a Godslayer, but you would not be able to obtain their authority. There would be no point in killing a god. You can't. Luo Hao gave a short and straightforward answer. I understand your desire for revenge, but cultivation is a daily thing. Becoming a Godslayer is even more illusory for you. You need a special medium. Hearing this, Dustless was refreshed. He asked expectantly. That is to say, as long as I find the medium, I can become a Godslayer? That's right. Luo Hao nodded seriously and explained. I can teach you martial arts. If you practice for a long time, your strength will also be enhanced. My disciple Lu Yinghua is the same. Dustless nodded gently. It was a fact that martial arts could strengthen the body. Take Luo Hao's disciple Lu Yinghua for example. Even some Godslayers were not as strong as him. Then learn martial arts. Dustless had no choice but to compromise and agree. Although martial arts were superfluous to him, it was not impossible to deal with Luo Hao. He still needed to get other information from her. Dustless already had a plan in mind to become a Godslayer. The Prometheus Secret Manual of Kusanagi Protector was the best medium. He just needed to rob it. Come with me, Luo Hao said and turned to leave the nunnery. Teaching Dustless martial arts here was definitely not possible. The space was too narrow. She might tear down her house if she was not careful. On the spacious grassland, Luo Hao and Dustless stood side by side. In front of them were countless mountains. Watch carefully. Luo Hao raised her palm once again. She raised her palm casually, and immediately, she slapped out with a seemingly weak and powerless palm. Boom. 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 In the distance, the mountain that was used as a target was instantly blasted into nothingness and razed to the ground. Try it now, Luo Hao ordered. With twitching lips, Dustless asked with a darkened face, "You haven't taught me how to test it yet." Even though breaking a mountain was a piece of cake for him. "Why don't you teach me how to do it?" "You're right." Luo Hao suddenly understood. He did not expect to forget such an important matter. Soon after, his eyes narrowed into slits. He smiled cunningly and said, "Then I will seriously impart knowledge to you. First, you need a strong body. Otherwise, you won't be able to practice anything." That makes sense. Dustless nodded undeniably. The body was the capital of everything. It was the same no matter which world it was in. Without a body made of iron, it was possible to be KO'd by the enemy. "Then I'll train you now." Luo Hao vanished in the blink of an eye. All that could be seen was a black shadow. When she reappeared, she was already right in front of Dustless and her fist was smashing towards him. Whoosh. Luo Hao thought that it would be easy to hit Dustless. Who would have thought that at the critical moment, Dustless actually dodged it? His reaction was so fast that even Luo Hao was stunned. Just like that? And what does this have to do with training the body? Dustless asked speechlessly. My direct disciples are trained like this. You are no exception. Raising her fist in a show of force, Luo Hao had a serious expression on her face. At the same time, she said in surprise, "But then again, it's really surprising that you were able to dodge it just now." Dustless's expression inevitably stiffened. He quickly explained, "My mother is a witch. She taught me basic fighting skills. My reaction speed is pretty good." "I can see that." Hearing this, Luo Hao slowly nodded. If it was an ordinary person, they would have been blown away by her punch. However, Dustless was actually able to snatch it. It was really not bad. "It's not over yet," Luo Hao shouted. She gently lifted her toes and her body completely ignored the existence of gravity. Like the wind, she floated in front of Dustless. "Qinggong? That's not bad," Dustless praised. He calmly stared at Luo Hao's fist that was smashing towards him. He couldn't help but sympathize with Lu Yinghua. It was really a tragedy to have such a violent master. Whoosh. Turning his head indifferently, Dustless once again dodged Luo Hao's fist. Not only that, his right leg swept out. Bang. Luo Hao was immediately repelled by Dustless's kick. Although both of them had suppressed their strength to the limit, Luo Hao still felt that her arms were a little sore. Your strength is unexpectedly great. Your reaction is also like a monster. You not bad. Luo Hao stood with her hands behind her back and commented. She had a celestial aura, and had the demeanor of a peerless master. Of course, I will take revenge in the future. Maybe the little universe will be. No, it will be my Dantian that will explode. Dustless quickly corrected himself. Unexpectedly, Luo Hao pursed her lips and smiled, which made him a little absent-minded. This master seems to be not bad. He looked at Luo Hao without batting an eyelid. Although she was a little violent, it was indeed for his sake. Although it was a little boring now, it wasn't bad. At least he wouldn't feel bored and impatient. Anyway, Dustless also needed time to understand this world. In the past, he had only seen it in novels and television. Now he had to experience it for himself. Don't be in a daze during a battle. Luo Hao rushed out. Weak ripples gathered in her palm, and aimed at Dustless's direction. Good timing. Luo Hao originally thought that Dustless would choose to slip away. This time, she was a little more serious and increased her strength. However, the reality was the complete opposite. Dustless took a few steps forward and threw out a punch without any fear. Boom, boom, boom. Luo Hao's palm shadow was immediately shattered. Chapter 1402. This time, it was sect leader Luo Hao's turn to be dumbfounded. Although she didn't use her full strength, Dustless still defeated her easily. Just how strong is this kid? Luo Hao said in disbelief. The afterimages of the exploding fists were especially eye-catching in her eyes. She locked onto Dustless suspiciously. Judging from Dustless's movements and speed, As well as his calm and confident aura, he didn't seem like someone who had practiced simple combat techniques. If you don't come, then I won't hold back. 100 meters, 50 meters, 10 meters, 1 meter. The distance of several hundred meters was covered in just 4 to 5 seconds. It was unbelievably fast. Bang, bang, bang. A series of crazy explosions landed on Luo Hao's body, and she couldn't help but take a few steps back. So soft. Dustless's punches suddenly landed on some awkward parts, and his attacks inevitably paused. That sinful touch made him want to stop, and his mind was shaken. He subconsciously retracted his arm, and his face turned green, indicating that he really didn't mean it. Not bad. Why did you stop? Luo Hao asked. She looked at Dustless, who had a conflicted expression, and was puzzled. You didn't notice? Dustless asked in surprise. He then heaved a sigh of relief. Perhaps it was because Luo Hao was so focused that she didn't realize that she was being taken advantage of by Dustless, even though she said it wasn't intentional. In reality, what Dustless didn't know was that Luo Hao had also noticed that her chest had been attacked. However, she didn't pay much attention to it. After all, it was inevitable. If they were really on the battlefield, it would definitely be a life and death battle. The winner would be the king, and the loser would be the bandit. It didn't matter what methods were used, as long as they could win. Therefore, Luo Hao didn't pay much attention to it. Instead, she was puzzled as to why Dustless had stopped attacking. Whoosh whoosh whoosh. Seeing that Dustless had stopped attacking, Luo Hao darted dozens of meters away, and pounced over like a gust of wind. Swish swish swish. Her jade-like leg swept out and kicked toward Dustless's shoulder. Due to her posture, the view under her skirt was undoubtedly revealed. Damn, it's actually black? Dustless's eyes lit up. He wanted to take a few more glances, but who would have thought that Luo Hao's small foot would kick over? Bang bang bang. Dustless, who was completely attracted by the scene that was not suitable for children, did not have time to defend himself, and was sent flying back dozens of steps. That shouldn't be the case. Based on your strength, you should be able to withstand my attacks. Why were you pushed back by me? Luo Hao frowned in confusion. Cough cough cough. Dustless coughed awkwardly and said seriously, horses make mistakes and people make mistakes. This is very normal. Is that the reason? Luo Hao asked suspiciously. She stared straight into Dustless's eyes, only to see his gaze darting around, not daring to meet her gaze. Clearly he had done something wrong. Could it be? Suddenly, Luo Hao realized why Dustless had shown such an expression when she kicked him. Her little face flushed red as she finally understood why Dustless had shown such an expression. He had obviously seen something he shouldn't have. Umph. With a heavy snort, Luo Hao's expression changed. She said helplessly in a loud voice. As expected, being a heavenly beauty is also a sin. Even my disciple is infatuated with me. Plop. Dustless stumbled and fell. He thought that he was narcissistic enough, but he didn't expect that when compared to Luo Hao, he would instantly become a weak chicken that was not worth mentioning. However, this is a very good breakthrough point. With a wicked smile, Luo Hao clearly thought of some weird idea. She looked at Dustless with evil intentions and thought of a good way to forcefully increase his strength. She said, "Why don't we make a deal?" A deal? Dustless frowned and stared at Luo Hao, who was smiling evilly. He asked, "Tell me about it." "If you can." Staring at Dustless for a few seconds, Luo Hao said cheerfully, "If you can defeat me, I won't stop you from doing whatever you want to me. Moreover, I will choose to unconditionally comply with your conditions." F***ck? You actually came up with such a sinister move to encourage this father to improve. Dustless cursed in his heart. Looking at that exquisite body, he suddenly felt that he should use all his strength to crush Luo Hao. Ahem. We are currently in a master-disciple relationship. Dustless waved his hand to remind her. Luo Hao was quite good to him. If he used all his strength to defeat her because of this dirty thing, his status in Luo Hao's heart would plummet. There's nothing wrong with it. After all, the strong are respected in this world. As long as you are stronger than me, it doesn't matter what you do to me. After all, everyone is like this. The real strong will not be bored enough to understand the feelings of others. Luo Hao saw through it quite clearly. The law of the jungle is the essence of every world. However, Dustless just smiled and was not tempted. Perhaps he can defeat Luo Hao by using Rinnegan Sharingan and using powerful genjutsu, but it is completely unnecessary. If he wins, will Luo Hao really obey him? Maybe she will really obey him, but one thing is certain. Luo Hao must be full of resentment toward Dustless. Deceiving a person who treats you sincerely, no matter who the person is, you can't let it go. Human beings are such emotional creatures. No matter who it is, they hate liars very much, including Dustless himself. Although the time they spent together is very short, Dustless has a good feeling about Luo Hao, so he chose to continue to hide his strength. When he understands the basic knowledge of this world, he will leave Luo Hao's Mount Lu. To seize Kusanagi Protector as a medium to become the God Slayer. As for what will happen to Kusanagi Protector in the end, it is not something that Dustless can manage. People are selfish. Who cares about his life and death? Chapter 1403. Time flew by, and in the blink of an eye, a month had passed. During this time, Dustless had not left Luo Hao's Mount Lu, speeding up his learning of this world. His insatiable thirst for knowledge made Luo Hao shudder. But this was not the most perverted part. Bang! 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 A dull explosion was heard, and Luo Hao was forced to retreat. If she maintained the same strength as Dustless, Luo Hao would have no choice. She was no match for Dustless, and she would need to use more power to suppress Dustless. Dustless's recovery ability was an extreme existence that shocked the world. Sometimes, the injuries he suffered on the first day would be completely healed the next day. Of course, this was the result of Dustless deliberately delaying it. Based on his recovery ability with the body of 10 tails, he could recover in the next second. You have finished your apprenticeship, but it's a pity. Luo Hao sighed. Although Dustless's performance was very good, a God Slayer was a God Slayer, and a king was a king. Could a human surpass him just because he wanted to? It was obviously impossible, and Marquis Waban was an extraordinary God Slayer, so he had the most power among the God Slayers, which indirectly meant that he had killed the most gods. Dustless could fight a human alone, but he was still far from being able to kill a god. Are you sure you want to leave? Luo Hao asked, her eyes inevitably dim. I've disturbed you for more than a month. It's time to leave. Dustless stretched and nodded slowly. When he was bored, he secretly created the White Zetsu army to scout for information all over the world. Kusanagi Protector was about to set off for Sardinia. If Dustless was late, Kusanagi Protector would become a God Slayer ahead of time, and all his efforts would be in vain. Therefore, it was imperative to leave. As for Luo Hao thinking of this, Dustless stared at the narcissistic girl. It was undeniable that she was extremely narcissistic and violent, but she was not as ferocious and terrifying as the world imagined. She was described as terrifying as a demon. In fact, Hierarch Luo would also show her cute side. Do you need me to send a disciple with you? No matter what, you are still their junior. Luo Hao suggested with a smile. In her eyes, Dustless would not be able to kill Marquis Warban, even if he had 100 lives. I'm not a child who would get lost. Dustless curled his lips. He felt that Luo Hao was treating him like a child who had yet to grow up. Then you're on your own. Blinking his eyes, Luo Hao waved his hand and didn't stop him anymore. People had to spread their wings and soar. In Sardinia, Italy, a plane flew over from the distant horizon and landed safely at the airport. Passengers continuously disembarked from the plane. Dustless was also on this flight. It really does feel strange. The blue sky was cloudless, and the lazy and bright sunshine fell from the ninth heaven. Wu Chen subconsciously raised his right arm to block the sunlight, and he always felt a little uncomfortable. That's... Dustless shifted his gaze slightly, and suddenly noticed a familiar figure. She didn't know anyone in this world. Since she knew this person, it meant that she was already very famous. At least, she had left a deep impression on Dustless in the original work. The girl was wearing a long red dress. Her blonde hair cascaded down like a waterfall. Her delicate little face was outlined with a charming smile. Her deep eyes were like gemstones embedded in her eye sockets. Is this Erica Browntree? Dustless was slightly stunned. After a while he said the girl's name. He was secretly delighted. I came at the right time. If I was a little late, Kusanagi Protector might have beaten me to it. Let's go and summon her. After thinking for a while, Dustless walked over. Chapter 1404. Erica Brantley, a 16-year-old girl from Milan, Italy. She had the title of Crimson Demon. She was the daughter of the Brantley family, a renowned family in the magic circle. She was one of the few people who knew how Hutterly became Campione. Erica belonged to the Red Cross, an Italian magic association. She had the rank of a Grand Knight and the alias of Crimson Demon. Her favorite sword was Lion King's Heart. She had learned iron forging, a spell that could freely manipulate iron objects. She was good at creating, transforming, destroying, and strengthening spells. Her ancestor was Campione the Demon King. Dustless lowered his head and thought carefully about the girl's knowledge as he walked. He was carrying a simple suitcase that Luo Hao had prepared for him in advance. Perhaps because he was too focused, Dustless accidentally bumped into something. Sorry. When he raised his head and was about to apologize, Dustless realized that the person he bumped into was Erica. At this moment, she was observing Dustless carefully with her watery eyes. Young man, be careful next time. It can be troublesome to find your luggage if you lose it in an airport. Erica smiled politely and picked up Dustless's suitcase that he dropped. Perhaps because the zipper of the bag was undone, Erica happened to see what was inside the bag. You do have a special hobby. There was nothing else in the bag except thick books about the myths of various countries and the stories of natural disasters. Sorry, my name is Dustless. Nice to meet you. Taking the bag, Dustless smiled politely. The latter nodded and introduced in a low voice, Erica Brantley. It's indeed her. Erica will probably run into Kusanagi Hutterly soon. I have to rob him of his Prometheus secrets. Dustless rolled his eyes and left the airport side by side with Erica. He asked with a smile. To be honest, I'm quite fond of the myths of various countries in the world. I'm visiting Sardinia because I want to learn more about the local myths. I can tell. Erica nodded, but she was still lost for words. Your backpack is full of books about mythologies. You didn't even bring basic clothes. How much do you like those mythologies? Dustless shrugged. Sorry, I'll be leaving first. As if she had found an acquaintance, Erica hurried over. Before she left, she turned around and gave a charming smile to Dustless. See you again. We'll definitely meet again. Dustless nodded. His short answer was filled with confidence. A king and a knight are inseparable. What a strange fellow. Turning her head to look at Dustless, Erica felt that this guy was a little strange, but she couldn't tell what exactly. She had an indescribable feeling. In a dark corner. Ka. The white monster poked its head out from the ground and respectfully looked at the young man who had been waiting for a long time. It said respectfully, Master Dustless, I have found the trace of Kusanagi Protector. Well done, lead the way. Dustless nodded with satisfaction. He was determined to get Kusanagi Protector's Prometheus secret book. As for Kusanagi Protector himself, it was more suitable for him to be a human. After all, being a godslayer was a risky and dangerous profession. Kusanagi Protector didn't have as much experience as Dustless. Kusanagi Protector, you'll be a passerby in glory. In an alley with sparse people, the young man strolled forward and looked at the grimoire in his hand. It was left behind by his grandfather. The day before yesterday, he visited Sardinia to look for its owner. Whoosh. At this moment, two figures descended from the sky and blocked Kusanagi Protector's path. Who are you? Kusanagi Protector asked in confusion. He didn't know anyone in Sardinia. Idiot, do you still need to ask? Of course we robbed it. If you don't want to die, hurry up and give me the thing in your hand. Otherwise, I'll beat you until your mother doesn't recognize you. The people who blocked Kusanagi Protector's path were Dustless and White Zetsu. Hearing this, Kusanagi Protector's expression suddenly became silent, and his body involuntarily stepped back a few steps. Still want to run? Seeing this, Dustless couldn't help but sneer. Even gods couldn't run in front of him, let alone Kusanagi Protector, an ordinary human with a mortal body. Laser. A ray of light shot out from his fingertip, and the surrounding houses were attacked and suddenly collapsed, blocking Kusanagi Protector's path of retreat. White Zetsu. This kid doesn't seem to know what's good for him, you kill him. Without looking at Kusanagi Protector, Silver directly ordered White Zetsu to kill him. He couldn't talk to such a stubborn person, so he could only use force. Understood, Dustless, Sama. White Zetsu nodded and then walked toward Kusanagi Protector, who was weak. It was a piece of cake to deal with him. Who are you? Why are you robbing my grandfather's things? Kusanagi Protector didn't give up and shouted. He tried to ask for help, but this place was like an isolated world. There was a dead silence, and no one responded to Kusanagi Protector. It's too much for you to be a godslayer. Give it to Dustless, Sama, and you will live in peace in the future. White Zetsu slowly walked toward him. Kusanagi Protector's face became more and more ugly. He couldn't accept giving his grandfather's relics to strangers. He couldn't cross the hurdle in his heart. Chapter 1405. Dustless didn't want to fight with Kusanagi Protector, so the name of bullying the weak was naturally replaced by Dustless by White Zetsu. Yo! White Zetsu approached Kusanagi Protector with a smile. His nondescript face was particularly terrifying. Gulp. Kusanagi Protector choked. To be honest, he was a little afraid of White Zetsu. After all, he had been living in human society. The two monsters in front of him did not belong to the category of human beings. One destroyed a building with a snap of the fingers, the other was White Zetsu. On the other hand, Kusanagi Protector was just a human. He was really a little surprised. Don't come over. Kusanagi Protector was forced to the corner, and the retreat behind him had been blocked by the ruins, and there was no escape. Little brat who hasn't grown up yet. Dustless couldn't help but sigh. If he called out the grimoire, everything would be fine. Isn't it good to be a human being? What's more, with the character of Kusanagi Protector, the profession of God-slayer, which almost lived all day long, was really not suitable for him. Ow 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 ow. At the same time, the sky on the other side suddenly shook violently, as if the ancient murderers had awakened, and everything in the world was trembling. This high-density power. It must be the wild boar of the war god. Dustless's eyes showed a look of understanding. He felt this power carefully and nodded secretly. It was not bad, and it was stronger than he imagined. Do it, White Zetsu. Influenced by the power of the wild boar, Dustless couldn't wait to order. Give it. White Zetsu heard the words and directly rushed over. Who would have thought that at this moment, the turbulent hurricane suddenly hit, like a sharp blade. Poochie, Poochie, Poochie. White Zetsu's body was immediately torn apart, and it was ruthlessly cut into pieces like meat. You are. Witnessing such a scene, Dustless frowned and looked at it. In the tornado, a purple-haired boy with a cloak came into sight. He was quite similar to a god in Dustless's impression. Is this guy the god that Kusanagi killed? Dustless's eyes flashed with a strange light, and he still asked with uncertainty, That? Are you that war god of the East, Welslana? Human? You actually know me? The purple-haired youth's bored eyes were filled with interest as he asked. What do you want? Are your subordinates planning to steal my slate? That's my slate. Dustless glared at him and corrected him. Then he said gloomily, You're just a god. Listen up, if you don't want to die, get the hell away from me. What did you say? Did I hear it wrong? How dare you tell me to get lost? The purple-haired youth was stunned for a few seconds. Clearly he was very surprised. This was the first time he had heard such a ridiculous phrase in his entire life. You didn't hear it wrong. I'll repeat it again. Get the hell away from me. Dustless repeated impatiently. He was just a god. How many gods had he killed? This kid was so stubborn. Dustless didn't mind adding another record of killing a god to his tally. You're just a human, but you're so arrogant. Wellislana's young face trembled with anger. If Dustless didn't know about it, it would be fine. As a god, he could forgive the ignorance of a human. However, this guy had mentioned his name everywhere. Obviously, he knew that he was a god, but he still dared to be so arrogant, and even told him to get lost. Wellislana felt that his lungs were about to explode from anger. Human, use your blood to appease the anger of a god. Wellislana roared with great majesty and vigor. Then his body exploded with a towering aura. Ka. The aura of a god was extremely powerful. Even the ground around Dustless was tearing, and the houses were collapsing. However, Dustless's expression didn't change at all. If you want to kill me, then do it. Hooking his finger, Dustless said fearlessly, I don't care what relationship you have with this kid. The Prometheus secret book, in Kusanagi Protector's hands, is mine. If you want to stop me, the only way is to crush you. For a god, Dustless really didn't care. Not to mention the other worlds in the past. Even the world of the Demon High School, when he left, he killed all the mythological systems, and countless gods were killed. That's mine. Wellislana's face twitched. This reckless human dared to openly steal a god's things. How could he tolerate it? If people knew about it, he would definitely become a joke in the mouths of all the gods. No. Shaking his finger, Dustless ignored Wellislana's pale face. A faint light appeared on his body, and he turned into a divine rainbow that flashed gently. In the next second, he appeared in front of Kusanagi Protector. Wellislana, you've got it wrong. If I want something, then it's mine. The previous owner of this book was at most you. The current owner is me. Rudely snatching the book from Kusanagi Protector's hands, Dustless looked down at Kusanagi Protector, who had a terrified expression, and said coldly, I will use my eye power to erase your memory of this period, and then give you a large sum of money. Live a peaceful life. Kusanagi Protector, the world of the God Slayer is not suitable for people like you to exist. No wonder you dare to be so arrogant. You even dare to ignore me, a god. This speed. You have the qualification to be a demon king. He turned his head and looked at Dustless in surprise. Even Wellislana was unable to catch up with the speed of light. He smiled excitedly and said, very good. Compared to this weak-looking kid, you are indeed more suitable to be a warrior. Even I could only vaguely sense the speed of the dark clouds. What he meant was that he allowed Dustless to get the Prometheus secret book. Chapter 1406. Dustless didn't even look at Wellislana. This kid was too narcissistic. The secret book of Prometheus had already injured him. Did he still need his permission? Dustless opened his Rinnegan and looked at Kusanagi Mamoru's eyes. Dustless activated his eye power and glanced at him gently. The male protagonist, who often had small outbursts, suddenly had a confused look in his eyes. The memory of this period would also be erased. The secret book of Prometheus would also be forgotten. He would also turn from the male protagonist to a passerby. Strange, where is this? After a while, Kusanagi Mamoru was confused. He stood up and looked at Dustless and asked embarrassedly, Excuse me, where is this place? This is Sardinia, Italy. Dustless briefly explained. He was extremely calm about Kusanagi Mamoru's reaction. He also handed the bank card that Luo Hao gave him to Kusanagi Mamoru. The secret is 6 zeros, and there is 10 billion yen. This is what you got from participating in the public game. There is such a thing. Kusanagi Mamoru frowned. How come he didn't have any impression of this? In the end, a large amount of unfamiliar information poured into his mind. After a while, he thought that what Dustless said was true and left happily. Only the dumbfounded Wellislana was left behind. What is this situation? He doesn't remember me. Wellislana's expression was gloomy, and he didn't hide his disbelief. He then looked at Dustless and said in a hoarse voice, You are not an ordinary human. Where are you from? A god slayer? There are only 6 god slayers in the world. You don't seem to be one of them. There wasn't one before, but it won't be long before a new king will be born. And in a few days, there will be an unlucky god that will be killed by me. Dustless said with a playful face. He stroked the slate in his hand. Becoming a godslayer was close at hand. Which god is it? Welslana asked. He felt that Dustless's strength was good. The unlucky god that was killed deserved his sympathy. I still don't know who it is. Pointing at his own head, Dustless said helplessly. Ah, your brain is so slow. The god that I'm about to kill is you, god of war of the east, Welslana. You're courting death. Hearing this, Velislana's eyes were filled with murderous intent. He waved his hand and took out a golden sword. His body flashed, and the golden blade slashed towards Dustless's head. Die, human. Recalling Dustless's arrogance, Welislaner increased his strength. Naive. Dustless raised his foot indifferently, covered with armament hockey and glinting fruit ability. Dustless also kicked. Lightspeed kick. Clang. 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 Velislana did not expect Dustless to be as fast as lightning. Even his strength was ridiculously strong. He was sent flying a few meters before he could stabilize his body. Although he was careless and did not use his full strength, it still showed that Dustless was not ordinary. Ah, are you really human? I feel like you are a god. Your strength is ridiculously strong. Sure enough, it was right to give you the slate. Velislana suddenly smiled like a madman. When he was about to attack again, a deafening sound spread throughout the world. Ah! The impact of the rage swept through the entire city. The buildings that were affected collapsed and turned into ruins and rubble. The strong vibration could be felt hundreds of meters away. This is... As if he realized something, Velislana was overjoyed. When he was about to retreat, he suddenly stopped and asked, Human, what is your name? Dustless. Dustless. Velislana murmured, then remembered it in his heart and said, I will let you see the power of a god someday. After that, Velislana disappeared. Dustless turned a deaf ear to Welislana's domineering declaration. He carefully stroked the rough slate in his hand, and felt the unusual fluctuation of power. He said happily, This is the power of the white horse? No wonder he wanted the slate. Velislana is very generous. He did not take the power of the white horse and gave it to me. Does he want to be defeated so badly and end the legend of invincibility? Dustless turned around and left with a smile. That guy over there, stop. Give me the grimoire in your hand. Don't force me to attack. A normal human is not my match. Just when he was about to walk out of the alley, a red figure descended from the sky and blocked Dustless's path. The crisp and pleasant voice obviously belonged to a female. Her long blonde hair danced even though there was no wind. Her round little mouth opened and closed. Her skin was white and beautiful, and her gem-like eyes were shining. Her movements were strong and agile. She did not have the natural weakness of a female. It's you? Dustless and the mysterious girl said at the same time. The girl who wanted to rob them was Erica, whom they met at the airport. She was pointing a small dagger at Dustless. Why is it this kid? Why does he have such a precious grimoire? Erica put down the dagger. She was also very surprised. After a few seconds of silence, Erica raised the dagger again and said seriously, Even though we've met once, I still hope that you can give this grimoire to me. Allah Allah. I didn't expect Ms. Erica to have such an unknown side. What will happen if I don't give it to you? Dustless asked with a smile. He was not afraid of the shiny dagger at all. He said very politely, Ms. Erica, are you trying to force me to sell it? I really didn't expect you to have the talent to be a robber. A robber? Erica's lips obviously twitched. She explained in a more patient tone. The thing in your hands is very dangerous, and it may cause a disaster. So please give it to me for safekeeping. For that, I can satisfy all your conditions. Chapter 1407. Hearing that, Dustless shook his head. How could he give up something that he had spent so much effort to obtain? Absolutely not. Sorry, Miss Erica, I can't do it. Dustless refused firmly and added, This is very useful to me. Useful to you? This time, it was Erica's turn to be strange. She seemed to have thought of something, and covered her mouth with her small hand. Are you saying that you can use this grimoire? Of course. Dustless looked at Erica with clear eyes and nodded. I have successfully usurped an authority. The authority that Dustless mentioned was actually the white horse, which was deliberately left behind by Welslana. When it came to Dustless, it became his usurpation. After all, Erica didn't see it. Are you sure? Erica looked at Dustless suspiciously. This gigolo looked gentle and scholarly. The chance that he could kill a god was close to zero. Absolutely. Blinking, Dustless said seriously. Miss Erica, I have something else to do. Goodbye. Dustless passed through Erica's body. He really had something to ask Lucurezia Zola, the Witch of Sardinia, a friend of Kazuichiro Kusanagi, the Lord of Kusanagi Protectorate. With this stone slab, Wuchen could pretend to have a relationship and ask about some secrets. Wait. Erica jumped and moved like a cunning rabbit. In an instant, she appeared in front of Dustless again. She opened her hands and continued to block Dustless's way unreasonably. The difference in her eyes is like night and day. Noticing the change in Erica's eyes, Dustless chuckled in his heart. This king is indeed an existence above human beings. The obscure look in Erica's eyes was obviously respect. This was normal. In today's world, including Dustless, who had just become one of the God-slayers, there were only 7 of them. Almost every one of them had unparalleled power. Luo Hao was one of them. You want to be my follower? Dustless asked jokingly. Sure, but the scene of you robbing me just now left a bad impression on me, Miss Erica. Who wants to be your attendant? A stinky toad lusting after swan meat? In your dreams. Erica pouted her lips and refused decisively. This guy is too arrogant. How dare he look down on me? I have to suppress his arrogance. Otherwise, how am I going to live in the future? Erica slandered in her heart. Is that so? Then I'll take my leave. Unfortunately, Dustless shrugged and brushed past Erica. Stop right there. Erica shouted. She pointed at Dustless's nose and said with great displeasure. You can leave if you want, but leave the grimoire behind and I will not stop you. Otherwise, please. At the end of the day, you still want to follow me. Dustless threw his backpack to Erica casually and stretched as he walked. Help me carry my luggage, and I can forgive your recklessness. Plop. Erica staggered and almost fell. How could this guy be so shameless? As a lady, she didn't let him carry her luggage, but this guy took the initiative. Hurry up and call your maid. Take us to Lucurezia Zola's place. Dustless said as he walked. If he remembered correctly, Welslana would appear there. He had to hurry over and kill Welslana, and become the real Godslayer instead of continuing to impersonate him. Maid? You mean Ariana? Erica walked to Dustless's side. In fact, when she heard that Dustless was willing to let bygones be bygones, she heaved a sigh of relief. Some kings were temperamental. Perhaps an inexplicable action would anger him, and then something bad would happen. He's here. The sharp-eyed Erica saw the red car approaching at high speed, and heaved a heavy sigh. She was really afraid that this confused maid would get lost. To Lucurezia Zola's place. Dustless took the initiative to get in the car, as if it was his own home. Ariana was speechless. She thought to herself, this guy is not polite at all. A rude guy who doesn't know how to take care of a lady. Angrily throwing the backpack to Dustless, Erica also got into the car and said softly, Ariana, do as he says. A few seconds later, the car sped toward Lucurezia Zola's house at a high speed. Obviously, this witch was quite famous. Erica knew more about her than Dustless, who knew nothing about her. There was still some distance before they reached Lucurezia Zola's place. Dustless took out the books in his backpack to pass the time. No matter how interested I am, I can't take the car without seeing. It's not good for my eyesight. Erica frowned. She was sitting right next to Dustless and could naturally see the words on the books clearly. Dustless simply glanced at her casually. His words almost made Erica breathless in frustration. I'm just choosing the power that suits me. Her lips twitching, Erica asked with a fake smile. So you're choosing which god to kill? Do you think this is grocery shopping? In the end, Erica's tone was obviously several times higher than before. This guy's thoughts really gave him a headache. It was already a blessing from the heavens to be able to steal the authority of a god. To think that this guy had actually prepared a backpack full of mythological books. Moreover, they were all detailed introductions to the various gods. Could it be that he wanted to wipe out all the mythological systems? Yes, I'm indeed choosing, but it's really disappointing. There doesn't seem to be any suitable ones. Only Welaslana's power is barely decent and suitable. Looking at the scenery outside the window, Dustless sounded more or less disappointed and gloomy. He suddenly felt that there were very few powers that he could use. He had most of them, and some of them were even better than those so-called gods. You. Erica pointed at Dustless. She was so angry that she couldn't say anything. Dustless' tone was clearly saying that as long as he had the right authority, it wouldn't be a problem no matter how many gods he had. Chapter 1408. Erica couldn't help but feel speechless. Dustless's frivolous tone was as light as a feather. The so-called god was like air, not worth mentioning and could be trampled on and bullied at will. Dustless didn't say much. It was superfluous to say this to Erica and he couldn't explain it clearly. There was a generation gap between two-dimensional creatures and three-dimensional creatures. We're here. About an hour later, Ariana woke up the sleeping Erica loudly. She was already lying limply on Dustless's body. Her sleeping appearance was very cute. Are we here? Rubbing her sleepy eyes. Erica's eyelids were still drooping. Clearly, she hadn't woken up yet and was still in a daze. I say, Miss Erica, you should be able to move your seat, right? Wu Che's indifferent voice sounded. Hearing that, Erica was furious. This is my carriage. Where do you want me to move it? If anyone should move away, it should be you, brat. You want me to move my seat? Get this straight. Why am I sitting on your lap? Erica, who realized that she was in the wrong direction, exclaimed. She glared at Dustless with a face full of indignation, instinctively thinking that this sinister bad boy was playing tricks on her. However, before she could make things difficult for Dustless, a voice that exposed her was heard. It wasn't Dustless but her maid, Ariana. Miss Erica, you rubbed yourself on him. Dustless even pushed you during that time, but you were like gummy candy. Speaking of this, Erica's little face was as red as an apple. Dustless's teasing gaze made her feel numb all over. She wished she could find a hole to crawl into. Don't tell me this guy used witchcraft to confuse me? Erica thought gloomily. She wasn't like this in the past. I don't see any new faces. A black cat was lying leisurely on the wall. Its gaze swept across them one by one until it landed on Dustless or the slate in his hand. A strange look flashed across its eyes. A talking black cat? Erica and Ariana were both stunned as they stared at the black cat in disbelief. My apologies for the sudden interruption, Ms. Corazia Zola. Dustless introduced himself politely and said, to be honest, my friend's grandfather asked me to deliver this grimoire. He could just make up a random reason, as long as it was plausible. What a complicated relationship. Anyway, please come in first. The black cat licked its paws, even though the door had opened by itself, revealing a pitch-black corridor. Is this really your grimoire? Erica questioned again. In fact, they had learned about the Prometheus secret manual before. Although the intelligence said that the person was also an East Asian, his appearance was far from Dustless's. It's definitely me. Dustless patted his chest and said calmly. The real Kusanagi protector had been sent home by him, and his memory was erased. Now that majestic posture was probably happy to count money. Creak. He followed the black cat all the way here and finally followed it up the stairs. On the sofa, a young woman wearing stockings and suspenders came into view. She was lying on her side. Isn't this your friend's grandfather? Why is he so young? Erica was speechless as she stared at Corazia Zola. She looked so young as if she had regained her youth. Dustless took a few steps forward and handed the slate to Corazia Zola. You should be familiar with this grimoire, right? More than familiar with it. I gave it to Ichiro. Corazia Zola's eyes flashed with nostalgia and the vicissitudes of life. She shook her head and said, "This grimoire is yours from now on. Leaving it with me will only cause endless trouble. I don't want to be the target of public criticism. Young man, it's yours." Why did Dustless find trouble with Kusanagi Protector? It was because of this slate. Therefore, for ordinary people, obtaining the slate would not bring them any benefits. Instead, it might cause them to be killed. And Kurazia Zola looked at Dustless in surprise and said in surprise, "God seems to approve of you. Is there really the power of God?" Erica's eyes widened and her lips trembled. She thought Dustless was just bragging. She did not expect it to be true this time. So this guy succeeded in killing a god? Looking at the calm Dustless, Erica envied him from the bottom of her heart. Although she was a genius, all geniuses paled in comparison to God. In this world, there were too many things that geniuses could not do. For example, killing a god was something that 99% of humans could not do. Ah, young man, you are not only handsome but also capable. You are so fascinating. I would love to have a good night with you. Kurazia Zola swung her long legs and purposely exposed some of her private parts. Dustless was blind. Even Erica blushed, let alone a man. What a pervert. As if she had seen something dirty, Erica hurriedly turned her head to hide her embarrassment. She subconsciously looked at Dustless, but this guy was as calm as a steel mask. Welslana. That guy is so arrogant. He actually dared to give me his power. After a while, Dustless's words stunned Erica and Kurazia Zola. They asked at the same time, "You haven't killed a god yet, but you've gained the power of a god." "Indeed. That self-righteous god gave it to me for free." Dustless shrugged and told them the truth. "But it doesn't matter. Welslana will soon become a thing of the past. You are so charming that even God is willing to give you his power. This is so unfair to those hard-working god-slayers. Others relied on their strength to make a living. When it was Dustless's turn, god-slayers came to him voluntarily. Was he relying on his face to make a living? Chapter 1409. Face recognition? Dustless sneered. That brat Welslana was trying to get himself killed. He purposely gave the privilege of the white horse to Dustless in the hopes that Dustless could defeat him. All in all, this grimoire belongs to you in the future. Look, Eurazia waved her hand as if Prometheus's secret grimoire was an unlucky star. Do you think you can take it back? Dustless rolled his eyes. He didn't need anyone's permission to do such a thing. Oh, what an unruly brat. You don't even know how to be polite. Look, Eurazia stood up and pointed at the room at the end of the corridor. She didn't care that her hot body was exposed to Dustless's eyes. It's late. You two can sleep in that room tonight. No problem. Dustless nodded and walked over with the grimoire. No, how can I sleep in the same room with him? Erica raised her hands in apology and complained. How can a lady sleep with an unruly? Then you can sleep on the sofa, Miss Erica. Dustless glanced at the arrogant Erica and interrupted her rudely. He shrugged and said, I like to sleep by myself. Goodbye. You. Erica stomped her feet in anger. She didn't expect Dustless to be so unreasonable and barbaric. He didn't even have the most basic gentlemanly demeanor. In the end, she had no choice but to follow Dustless. Is your brain made of stone? Erica mumbled after she caught up with Dustless. Someone like me. I'm a snobbish person. You'll kick me out if I talk about gentlemanly. Dustless said rudely. Only an idiot would sleep on the floor instead of the bed. Welslana will be fighting another god tomorrow, right? I need to rest up for now. Staying here was just waiting for Welslana to come knocking on his door. After all, the chances of finding these gods were slim. The only way was to wait for them to come knocking on his door. Creak. She gently pushed open the bedroom door. The room that greeted her eyes was rather simple. Other than a bed and the necessary dressing table, there seemed to be nothing else. Go to sleep. Dustless pointed at the soft mattress and turned to leave. Are you planning to sleep on the sofa? Erica asked after a moment of surprise. She was even prepared to sleep on the floor. After all, there was only one empty room here. You believe the words of that witch? Dustless curled his lips and asked disdainfully, how could such a large castle only have one bed? Go ahead and sleep. If you don't have a place to sleep, I'll take Lucurasia's room for myself, Dustless said casually. Poochie. Erica couldn't help but smile when she heard that. After glaring at Dustless, she blushed and said, we're outsiders after all. Guests should follow the host's wishes. Let's rest together today. Dustless was taken aback. Soon after, he asked maliciously, aren't you afraid that before you do anything perverted to me, I'll definitely kill you? Erica warned fiercely. Her tone was a little awkward. Although she said it casually, she couldn't calm down for a long time. Who would be able to let go of a man and a woman alone in a room? Especially now that she and Dustless had only met once. If it were someone else, it would be hard for them to accept it. I'm going to take a shower. Dustless stretched himself and said lazily. When he was about to open the door, he found that it was locked from the inside. That witch's personality is similar to that of the witch, and she acted so quickly. Mr. Godslayer, don't speak to me in such a resentful tone. I'm doing this for your own good. That little girl has a powerful background. She's your only knight. You have no conscience. You should thank me, Lucurasia said in a resentful tone, as if she were a wronged wife. Dustless felt a chill run down his spine. Do you mean I should thank you? Dustless resisted the urge to rush out of the door. He said in a low voice, your kindness is really unflattering. He might be misunderstood as a pervert or a pervert. Ah, that's not something I can control. Take care of yourself, young man. In my opinion, you and Kusanagi both have the potential to be playboys. Good luck. Lucurasia twisted her snake-like waist and left with a smile on her face. Ahem. Erica coughed dryly. She sorted out her thoughts and said, we do need to have a good talk. Talk. Dustless, who was in a dilemma, had to sit down on the ground. He curled his lips and said, Miss Erica, I don't think I need your help. As a godslayer, I'm the most desirable one for you sorcerers. Why is this guy so? Erica found herself speechless. She didn't have the right to negotiate with Dustless. She didn't even have a bargaining chip. Let's talk about it tomorrow. Dustless leaned against the wall with his eyes closed. After a while, he started snoring. This guy is really good at pretending. I've never heard of anyone who could sleep standing up. Erica snorted, looking as if she couldn't be fooled. When she was about to expose Dustless, she suddenly caught the mischievous smile at the corner of his mouth, which gave her the creeps. Erica's idea of teasing Dustless vanished. She might even lose her life. There was no need to take the risk. This guy was so weird sometimes. She'll probably come tomorrow. Dustless suddenly opened his eyes. He muttered to himself in a voice that only he could hear. Chapter 14:10. Erica had to admit the cruel truth. If you didn't kill the gods, it didn't mean that the gods wouldn't kill you. If the two gods fought, the island would collapse. No one would be able to stay out of it. As the saying goes, when the immortals fight, the mortals suffer. Are you two still going to stop me? Dustless asked while lying in Erica's arms. You. Lucurasia sighed. She had to admit that Dustless was telling the truth. Erica was also speechless. She clenched her delicate hand into a fist. However, in Dustless's eyes, it looked extremely fragile. This world was just so cruel. Humans were as insignificant as grains of sand. Even if thousands of them died, the gods wouldn't be moved. They were just ants in the end. I'll go with you. After a few seconds of silence, Erica said with determination, You once said that the king and the knight will never be separated. What a stubborn girl. Hearing this, Dustless broke free from Erica's arms. Under Lucurasia's shocked gaze, Dustless wasn't bound by the law of gravity at all. He flew up with Erica like a ghost. How did this guy do it? He only has the white horse power of Welslana. Where did this power of flight come from? Lucurasia asked with her beautiful eyes wide open. Due to the excessive shock, her magnificent cleavage was swaying back and forth, as if it was about to explode. Pervert! Erica snorted and glared at Lucurasia. Her angry eyes were obviously saying, "How dare you seduce my king in front of me? You'll be here for a few days." Ah, young people nowadays are so petty. Good things should be shared. Lucrezia chuckled. Erica's red face was quite cute. She couldn't help but tease. Goodbye. Wu Chen turned into a rainbow light and disappeared into the horizon, like a meteor gradually disappearing into the eye socket. After Dustless left, Lucrezia mumbled to herself, "What a powerful and mysterious brat. This guy probably still has great strength. Maybe he can really slay a god and become a new surpasser." She suddenly felt that this boring world was much more interesting. "How confident are you in taking down Mercado?" Erica asked worriedly. After all, the opponent was a legendary god, and Mercado was not an ordinary god, but one of the strongest gods in Mediterranean mythology. "How much?" Dustless chuckled as if he had heard the funniest joke. "You should be worried for Mercado. You should know that there isn't a suitable coffin on this island for him to use." "You," Erica stared at Dustless angrily. He was about to become an enemy of a god, but this guy still looked so frivolous as if he was bullying a hooligan. "Erica, the so-called gods are just a group of people who bully the weak and fear the strong. There is no need to worry. Mercado is no match for me. Besides, he is not the only one who will die today." Dustless said ambitiously. Gods were superfluous. He had made up his mind to kill every god he saw in the future. He would purify the air. "Stop right there, you idiot." Seeing that the distance between him and Mercado was getting closer and closer, Wu Chen raised his head and shouted. He didn't care about the existence of the storm. "Your head is mine." After saying that, Dustless launched an attack with peerless power. A large amount of golden light appeared in his mythology, and some kind of power swept out from it. "A mere human dares to stop the steps of a god. How dare you, a puny existence, speak rudely and call me a big guy?" Mercado stopped in his tracks. He turned his head and looked at Wu Chen. His eyes were frightening. "Oh, it seems that you have some skills. This trick is not something that a normal human can have." Mercado looked up at the golden light above Dustless's head. Countless weapons were aimed at him. The momentum was quite huge. Gulp. What kind of god's power is this? Erica was also dumbfounded. Looking at the various divine weapons above Dustless's head, she was in a daze. It was the first time she had seen so many divine weapons. "This is my king's treasure." The monarch's treasure contained many peerless weapons that could suppress a deity. Wu Chen did not say much as he explained indifferently. "Have a good taste of the rain of bullets." He raised his arm and lowered it gently. Countless divine weapons shot out. Whoosh whoosh whoosh. Without exception, they all pierced mercilessly toward Mercado. There were so many of them that it was like a rainstorm. The dark night sky was suddenly dyed golden. "Humph, I am a god. How can I be hurt by weapons made by humans?" Mercado snorted disdainfully. His weapon, which was as thick as a scepter, swept out. Bang bang bang. All the weapons that fell down were scattered. They fell to the ground like scrap metal. The momentum of this magnificent attack was high, but the power was not impressive. "You want to kill a god with this embroidered pillow? Human, there is something wrong with your head." Mercado sneered. He raised his strong arm, and was about to wave the weapon in his hand to kill Dustless. However, he was surprised to find that his right arm could not move. He turned his head and saw that his right arm had been bound by an iron chain. "This is really boring. Is the so-called god only at this level? He is as weak as a child. He doesn't even have the fighting spirit to move me." You're tuning in to the Echoes of the Heart YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.